payments is part of our lives. I am an immigrant. I don't sound like it, but I was born and bred in South Africa. I've been here for long enough to sound funny. But getting money back to where we come from is really just part of our lives. It's part of our financial existence. And Disrupt 270 is all about making that easier, bringing down the cost, making sure that when people make payments, they know those payments are going to arrive. It's the trust in the system to help people live more fulfilled lives. And on that basis, I think it's just a wonderful sector to be involved in. I know Andrew and Dedi and the team have put together a brilliant program. So I would just encourage you all to participate, ask questions, get involved. I think don't leave today without having learned something that you didn't know before. Just talking to people already at coffee this morning, I think I've learned 3 things. I've forgotten 2, so I'm going to have to go back and relearn. But I've definitely learned one thing already. So I will get out of everyone's way. But please, if anyone wants to know more about DLA and our commitment to the continent and where we are and what we do and how we help African businesses, please find me and I'll bore you to death with all of that. So have a lovely day and all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chris. And I think we are going to learn a lot today. And I think one of the things I would like to pause here and to tell you why we are here and why we see institutions like yourselves gathered here. For me, I am passionate about small payments institutions. I think sometimes when I even look at the fact that we are here on behalf of ZPay, it's just to tell you that for me, ZPay is just one thing. It's a challenger fintech. I mean, ZPay, Disrupt 270 is just to ensure that we challenge the status quo. I think over the past, not to bore you through the whole history about financial services, I think we have moved from the barter system to the traditional banks. We saw all the banks coming with legacy systems. But for me, it gives me joy that we actually have challenger fintechs like ZP who are actually breaking the barriers that all the big institutions, leveraging one common thing that we all have here, technology, to be able to deliver and terminate payments, terminate remittances, terminate financial services. I think for us, that's the joy that we bring. And it's a delight that this is something that was started in Africa, right back from Africa, where somebody saw the vision to be able to do this. And today, it's a delight that we are actually here. But since we are in Accra, we're in London, sorry about that, we can't actually start today's program without actually paying homage to Ghana High Commission. And we would have loved if the ambassador was here. But even though we don't have the ambassador with us, I think we have somebody that is actually going to represent the ambassador. And I would like to call the head of trade investment at the Ghana High Commission to actually join us. Mr. Paul Patels, kindly give us some welcome remarks. It's good to see a familiar face in London. You can still tell I'm very used to being in Accra, but gradually by the end of today, I'll definitely acclimatize. Welcome, please, go ahead. You're not mine, so if you don't.
Hello. Oh, there's no response. Are you cold? I thought you'd say hi. I hope you are not disrupted by the rain because of the. I've been wondering what the Disrupt 270 is, but that's another story. Like she introduced, my name is Papa Cole Bartels. That's how we say it, and I work with the Ghana High Commission, and as you can see, I am not the High Commissioner. But I'm speaking as the High Commissioner. I hope you understand that. So if what I say goes down well, it's him. If you think there's a question mark behind what I'm saying, then it's me. So I am operating with 2 hats. The good one is for the High Commissioner, and the not not so good one is mine. I hope you understand that. Thank you. So I think that there are very distinguished people here who will be speaking to us. I want to acknowledge them. I also want to acknowledge the very beautiful ladies and then smart gentlemen who are here. And I stand on the existing protocol to bring you what the High Commissioner would have delivered. So he would have been very happy to be here, but he's been taken away on some other mission, so he's unable to be here with us at this time. Let me start by saying that from what I have understood about what is going to happen here, this conference is structured to discuss and seek some kind of alignment on current trends in remittances, payouts on the African continent, and leverage on the opportunities available to Ghanaian NTOs in the digital ecosystem. One of the key agenda on the African continent is the African Continental Free Trade Program, and it seeks to align cross-border payments which can become a major hindrance to the objectives of the AfTA in Africa. So AfTA itself, in its own wisdom, thinks that we should find some kind of a platform which, for instance, ZPay is doing, to have, a smart, payment platform for us to navigate the very difficulties that we go through in even getting to a different country in Africa in terms of payments. So it has rolled out what they call the PAPS, which is the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. And the PAPS is one of the key operational instruments that the African Continental Free Trade area is using to centralize, payments within Africa in terms of processing payments across the continent. It's like a clearinghouse and settling cross-border trade and commercial payments among African countries. It is actually intended that the system would replace current difficulties that we face in banking and intra-African trade, especially for large cross-border payments. Trade within Africa, shamefully, is just about 16-17%. Almost all trading activities in Africa is to engage either Europe or engage the Americas or even the ASEAN, countries. I think this is not good enough, and one of the reasons we have been unable to enhance intra-African trade is because of the kind of payment systems that we have. So if I'm Ghanaian and I want to do business in Egypt, it's so difficult. I mean, if you are here and you've been through that, you know that it's so difficult because we don't have, a solid platform where we can engage to roll out what we have. So this is where I want to commend ZPay and the various participants who are here for bringing this up at this conference. I believe that your deliberation will go a very long way to complement the effort of AfTA, that's the African Continental Free Trade Area, and the various governments on the continent. I also want to say that it is heartwarming to note that ZPay has for over 10 years, they have been at the heart of the payment ecosystem in Ghana, and I'm sure they are striding into the rest of Africa gradually. I learned, and I'm sure I can be corrected if I'm wrong, that in 2021, they were able to process over 12 million transactions with a value that hit about 900, let me say close to $1 billion USD. I think this is remarkable. Now, this kind of effort goes a very long way in creating, that's what ZPay is doing, a seamless business transaction in Ghana and the rest of Africa. If what ZPay is doing, I call them the catalyst. In my little chemistry that I know, when you start a reaction, the catalyst would facilitate the reaction to its completion or to its end. It may not be involved directly in the kind of transaction that is going on, but it will just facilitate it. So ZPay is a catalyst. And I stand here to say that the Ghana High Commission is in full support of ZPay's effort at bringing to the fore current practices in the world of technology and its applicability to the Ghanaian and the African payment ecosystem to facilitate remittances, payouts into digital assets such as mobile money wallets, bank accounts, ATMs, debit cards, etc., etc. The crack assemblage I saw in the list of people who would be doing presentations and the list of people who would be discussing. And I think that the people brought together is solid enough to give us new information. These are knowledgeable speakers, and the array of new knowledge and the kind of audience that we are here, coming in to listen. For me, I think that it's going to be a learning process, and I'll pick nuggets of wisdom and information from this whole exercise. Let me go off track a bit because I'm coming from Ghana High Commission, and then talk a bit about the efforts that government is putting in. Ghana recognizes the role of technology, the key role that technology plays in her developmental paradigm. That is why Ghana has rolled out several significant policies, programs, and activities to fast-track and mainstream tech development into the Ghanaian ecosystem. Technology-driven programs such as the mobile money interoperability is making significant inroads in Ghana. In fact, I dare say that everybody in Ghana is banked. We talk of a large majority of the people not being banked. But if you go to the market now, currently, presently, and you buy, say, veggies, and you don't have money on you to pay directly, and you talk to the vegetable seller in the market and say, oh, can I send you a momo? I said, yes, sure, why not? This person may even be, as ignorant in technology as possible, but they understand the momo because they know that that is the kind of bank, that they have. So you can pay, and she picks the phone. Oh, I have the alert. Okay, thank you. You can take your veggies and go. If we continue in that kind of trajectory, technology will become the mainstay in practically everything that we do in Ghana and on the continent of Africa. So Momo is a significant thing. There are other things that I want to talk about. Ghana, at our ports now, we have a paperless port system which is driven by technology and is easing congestion at the ports. We have e-immigration systems comprising modules such as the Secure Border Management System, SBMC, visa management systems, online application for visas and permits, the deployment of e-procurement systems that allows for all contractors to source and pay online. We have even e-parliament, e-justice, e-cabinet, and several E's. And it is just to give a new meaning to the kind of development that as a people we seek. Simple, to digitize our economy. And I'm not done with that. Every square meter in Ghana has an address, and it is based on some kind of digital system or technology that we are using. And lest I forget the Ghana card, which is going to be a key driver in identifying who you are, where you stay, and all that. So this should just tell you that in the thinking of government, technology is central and technology is important in driving us to where we need to get to. But I believe that the missing middle in all this discussion is how to fund, how to source and fund, technology development. And I would urge you that in the discussion that you are going to have in here, let's look at that, because we need to consider startups, we need to consider tech development, developers, and we need to look at people who are within that space. So it's ZPay, yes, but this is a platform where we can also initiate this kind of a discussion. And I also think that the same technology or digitization we need to deploy into other areas. Areas like agriculture, education, health, housing, and it goes, that the list goes on and on and on. Can I sit at my home effectively and go through my BSc, my BA, B whatever, without necessarily stepping into the classroom? No, how easy would it be to even source lectures from various? Let's be also looking at that. So that I think that much as this talks about payment platform and things like that, we should also look at issues that can push the continent up. I think this is a very useful exercise that we are here to undertake. It is a beautiful conference, and I will be taking notes. In fact, I'll be recording some of the speakers who will be speaking and add it to my very little knowledge in technology that I have. I only have it good enough to engage you, and that is what I have done. So thank you very much, and I hope that we have an exciting time here, and by the time we leave here, we'll all leave knowing that we've had a good brush with technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Papa Ko Patels. I think this was good, so definitely we'll take the good. It's been amazing. Round of applause. Thank you very much. I think it's interesting you mentioned that we have come a long way in Ghana, and I can actually tell you that our financial inclusion target in Ghana is actually above 90%. In 2006, when we started, we were thinking about, oh, by 2020, the target will be, what, 75? But I can tell you with the data we are seeing now for Ghana, we've actually crossed that mark. And it's true, yeah, we really, really have come a long way. And it's all thanks to the rails that we are going to talk about today, is the fact that we have put in place a technology that is actually driving this growth, that irrespective of whether you are formal or informal in Ghana, you actually have a bank account or a mobile money wallet. So thank you for the opportunity, and extend our warm regards and thank you to the ambassador. I think for me, at this point, it's time to pause and look at who is actually working on this. Who is really behind ZPay? You know, companies like ZPay just don't evolve overnight. It takes a lot to be able to do what they do. And for me, there's always one key person who drives and is able to drive the team at ZPay. And there's a gentleman that I have seen, and each time I go into a ZPay program or I go for ZPay events, he's always in the background. He was a managing director of a construction company based in Ghana. He holds a diploma in banking from the University of Boulder, Colorado, USA. He has a BSc in administration, marketing, finance, and others from the University of Ghana. I'm sure there are quite a few here who have University of Ghana as their alma mater. He is currently the chairman of the University of Ghana Alumni Association and a member of the University of Ghana Council School of Health. No, a member of the University of Ghana Council, the School of Health Sciences, the Progeny Ventures International, and Nuber Foods and Commodities Limited. Prior to these roles, he served as the board chairman for Global Access Savings and Loans Limited, amongst others. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to say hello and thank you to the chairman of ZPay, Mr. Kwesi Yankee. Mr. Yankee, thank you for the good work you do, and it's always a pleasure to be around you. And ZPay says thank you for all the help and direction you give for your role. And if ZPay is in London, there has to be somebody who oversees the work of ZPay in London. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me with a round of applause for Ruth Aminu, who is the chairperson for ZPay UK. Moving on, I think I have not my colleague, I was actually going to say my colleague, but I think right now, yes, I have to. So sometimes I forget. And I'd like to introduce the Managing Director for SIC Insurance, Kweku Apiamenka. Kweku joins us here from Accra. I would keep on introducing our dignitaries as we move along. So moving along, payments actually runs through my blood. I actually started from payments, and Andrew permits me. I was actually part of the team that worked on the interoperability for Ghana. So it's a joy that we have such an infrastructure in place. And for us, when I hear the word interoperability, I see ZPay, because that's exactly what they do. Leveraging this powerful infrastructure that we've put in place to be able to terminate whether it's a bank account or it's a mobile money wallet. And that is the only way we can change and make sure that every Ghanaian or anybody who can leverage on the power of technology can actually do what ZPay does and do it better. So at this point, I would like to introduce the man behind it all for us. I would like him to tell us why we are here. You can tell I've actually deliberately omitted that, because I think he needs to tell us why he's brought us here. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I'd like to introduce none other but Andrew to take the stage and tell us why we are here. Please put your hands together for Mr. Andrew Techerpie, CEO for ZPay. Andrew, welcome. Over to you.
Thank you, Clara. So good morning, everybody, and once again, thanks for coming. It's such a great honor for us to have you here today. And I can't find the words because I'm very humble. But before we actually do that,
people come to him with all types
before we
of
actually
from
do
tire
that,
changes to
we wanted
fixing
to do
keys
a
onto-
quick, wanted to go ahead and do a quick intro video, and then after the video we can have a conversation about what Clara was going to tell you. So once again, let's clap for everybody. Let's clap for Clara. Thank you very much for that.
Meet Kojo. He's one of the best mechanics in town with 4 apprentices and 2 workshops. People come to him with all types of faults, from tire changes to fixing keys onto new key holders. Another fault again. Business is thriving, customers are happy, and life is playing out just fine. 6 years ago, things weren't so smooth for Masakojo. He had no workshops, no apprentices, and he wasn't anywhere near becoming the chief fisherman of his hometown. With ambition like nothing nobody in his hometown has ever seen, Kojo decided to move to the capital to start his own journey. Like many before him, his beginning in the capital wasn't easy at all. Like many before him, he had no easy, convenient, and safe way of sending money back home to his family. You see, every month, he had to go to the lorry station just to be able to send money home to support his family, which at times took days before they received it. All of that changed one day as he walked past an agent kiosk on one of the capital's bustling streets. His inquisitive mind led him to the discovery of an efficient financial services provider. This time, when he went to send money, he got a quick notification alert from the agents to confirm his transfer. He also got a free ZPay mobile money wallet account. When his younger siblings found an agent close to them, they received the money instantly and got a free ZPay mobile money wallet account created for them too. With his ZPay mobile money wallet, he got access to a financial service provider that made it easier and cheaper to send money home to support his family. He'll soon come to find out that he could receive payments from his boss. Not just that, he also realized the tremendous innovation ZPay had to offer, like paying for foodstuff at Ma Akwele's shop from a ZPay mobile money wallet. Life was beginning to feel a lot easier for Kojo. Kojo was now connected to the ZPay network and everybody on the network, from that food joint on the corner to global financial services such as online shopping sites. As fate would have it, Kojo had a breakthrough to go further his training abroad. He never stopped sending money home to the family thanks to his ZPay mobile money wallet. And because Kojo sent their remittances from his ZPay mobile money wallet directly onto their ZPay mobile money wallet, his family could still receive their money at their agent's store. They didn't have to go queue at the bank. Thanks to their ZPay mobile money wallet, it was as if Kojo was still in Ghana, which made him feel close. Sending and receiving or redeeming remittances from family and friends abroad has never been this easy and convenient. Back home, the family learned how to pay for their light bills and water bills and even buy airtime for themselves directly from their ZPay mobile money wallets. With the help of ZPay's instant cash payouts, they saved up enough and built Kojo's first workshop. Today, Masa Kojo's story is one that all the apprentices and people who come to the capital use as an inspiration to know life gets better with the right financial service provider. At Masa Kojo's shop, customers can pay their bills via our QR scan to pay system. He pays his workers from his ZPay mobile money wallet and is constantly introducing his customers to ZPay's micro insurance, auto insurance, mortgage remit, and everything ZPay. Talk about a super believer. 6 years down the line, things have been looking great for Masa Kojo, and most of the people in his hometown have also joined the ZPay mobile money network. Now ZPay mobile money has become the most popular way of sending and receiving money in the country. But before I forget, meet now. And yes, you guessed right. That's Masakojo's daughter. She's a brilliant young lady with the world at her fingertips. Thanks to ZPay, she's able to pay for her Netflix monthly subscriptions, shop and pay for her goods from Amazon, pay for her meals at selected shops, buy tickets for the cinema, and even pay for her PlayStation tokens, all directly from her ZPay mobile money wallet. This is just something different.
Well, welcome to the world of ZPay. Andrew, over to you.
Thank you very much. So once again, thank you very much for coming. I thought before I asked you to start my presentation, just to give you just 2 minutes. It says I just want to find out from every table, just 2 minutes. So 1 second for every table. What you think the video is telling. Then we'll start with the same. So what do you think the video is telling?
It's a very, very, very good way and very easy way, which allows everybody in the country, especially those people in Africa.
Thank you. Let's clap for Somali. Oh, great. Okay.
Your system is very nice, and it's gone to the very rural people, and they can get or buy or anything through the GPay, and it is very necessary for the everybody who lives in third world, like in the remittance receiving country. Your system is fantastic. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good to everybody. Any other person before we continue? Okay, so it looks like everybody's on the same page. What I wanted to do was to use my presentation to really tell you where the world is going. But before I do that, I also want to get to the point that how many of us remember Telegram? The days of Telegram. Then from Telegram went to, I think, even for faxes, if I remember right? Faxes. I'm learning. But then we also used to have the wires, right? So in America, they still call them wires. West Indian was born out of wires, basically. Okay. So if you remember, in our part of Africa, and most parts of the world, when you get money, you got to go to a bank. Usually, I never believed the story, Mr. Gonzalez, until I actually experienced it. So we have a client partner called Coco 360, Chakwa. We actually traveled from Accra to Chakwa. It took us about 12 hours. Then from Chakwa to the nearest village for us to pick up money is actually 22 kilometers. So imagine all these old ladies are traveling 22 kilometers to be able to find the nearest bank to be able to collect their cash, which is usually probably just $50 or which is usually $50 or in some cases £10. So imagine you're walking all this amount of distance wanting to pick that up kind of cash. That is really what the continent looks like. But thanks to Mr. Bartels, we've had a good day, good morning. Thanks to all the things that clients talked about, we've been able to leapfrog into mobile, and that's what we're going to talk about. We want to talk to you guys about the fact that that has changed so much. Today, digital has leapfrogged Africa again, not just from voice telephony or mobile telephony, but even from financial services. We are talking about the fastest continent that is experiencing financial services growth, which is Africa. We are talking about the continent that is experiencing on-digital for payments. It's Africa. It used to be Nairobi, today it's Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, so many other African countries have come on stream. You'll be amazed, even if talking about Somalia, you'll be amazed what you find in Somalia. You'll be amazed what you find in Sudan. You'll be amazed what you find in some of the countries that we think nothing happens in Africa, just because of what mobile telephone and well and person and so on. So this is what really we do, and that's what we want to make you see today. The focus of this morning and this whole day is to let you see how we're transitioning from analog, which is cash pickup, to digital. interesting discussions, interesting direction of where the world has gone. And so I'm going to take about 5 to 10 minutes of your time this morning to give you a whole presentation, which I believe and hope will set the stage for all our discussions for the rest of the day. I don't know if we're ready, if not. One, okay. So whilst waiting for that, my presentation is going to focus on the fact that the world has changed from analog to mobile. I'm also going to show you, if any of you have heard of GSM. I don't know if you've heard of GSM. So GSM is a world global body that monitors, tracks, and records the performance of the mobile telephone. But mobile telephone used to be just mobile telephone. Today we have mobile money, which is the extension of mobile telephone. So I'm also going to show you what GSM is tracking showed us for the first year for 2021 in terms of remittances onto wallets. And then I'm going to use that to open up the opportunity for you to see where we're going as a continent. Clash, is that? Okay. No. But it's here though. Alright, well, should we clap for this? Okay, so for those of you who can see my screen, if you look on the blue, what you see is that in 2021, out of, okay, what you see in 2021, what you see is that in 2021, out of $800 billion that moved around in terms of remittances, $16 billion of it went into mobile wallets. And this is actually about 45 to 48% jump from the year before. Now that tells you how far as a sector we've come and how on digital is changing that. It sounds very small today, but by the time I finish my presentation, you have a sense of what percentage it will look like towards the next 3 years. What I also find interesting is that Africa alone did 84 billion of that. But if you look at the number of wallets, we have 1.3 billion wallets globally. And Africa sits on about 500 million plus of those wallets. So should we clap for Africa? What it's telling you is that Africa has definitely leapfrogged. Okay, and we're about to leapfrog again over the next 2 years. And those of us in this room, this is your aha moment, because this is what you're going to see, which will enable you to grow your business. And that's what, by the time we're done with you today, we hope you will see. Now, on my next slide, what you find is exactly what I've been trying to say for some time now. If you look at Africa and you break it into like little pockets of 5, in terms of trade blocks or regions, whether it's SEAC, it's SADC, it's WAMS, West Africa, what you're seeing is that payments and remittances are fast changing how we receive money. We're moving fast and fast away from the cash pickup because the banking network is not able to support the distribution. Okay, another thing that I want to bring to your attention is the fact that 10 years ago, a diasporan was not one of importance. All we cared about was those people. But today, they are the market everybody in the host country wants to tap into. If you sell shoes, you want to sell it to diasporans. If you sell money, you want to sell it to them. Everybody wants that group. So all of a sudden, we become very important, whether abroad or at home. And everybody's running into that. And what you see here is how things are going to look like. Brick and mortar in our view is dying. It's fast dying. If you look at the banking network across the continent, we do not have more than 30,000 bank branches. But if you look on the continent by distribution, we have so many distribution points when it comes to mobile money. So this is what I was trying to tell you when I said the lady has to travel 21 kilometers from a village to the nearest bank. But thanks to mobile money, they don't need to travel anymore. They can receive their money instantly on their mobile wallets, and when they get their money on their mobile wallets, they can do anything they want to do with them. Because of my eyes, I need to go a little bit closer. But basically, what you're seeing, if you look at the analysis, Africa has 184 million wallets. Out of the 184 million wallets, we have 35 million bank cards. So again, it tells you that in Africa, we're not card people, we're mobile people. But even from a pay perspective, you can still pay onto cards. Whilst you can only have 30,000 bank branches that you can pick up your cash from. So really and truly, mobile money, I think, was designed for us. It was designed to improve our last mile access. Okay, if you look on here, you also see that in terms of digital, if you take Ghana alone as a profiled country, we have about 6.8 million bank accounts. Okay, we have about 8 million, we have about 18 million mobile wallets, and we have about 4 million savings and loans. So what we call savings and loans are like indirect agency, they are agency type bank accounts. I can't think of one in the UK. Maybe the building societies, the rural banks, all of that put together. You find that we also have a lot of that. So what you're seeing is that the continent is fast changing from a digital perspective. We've enabled the rails, we've built infrastructure as a continent that enables you to send money to digital, because we realize that the analog system is holding us back. Now, if you look at the global picture, what we're also seeing is that the digital is offering you as MTOs the opportunity to reduce your cost profile, because there's enough distribution, it's available everywhere. Literally, you can send money to at least close to 100 million people on the continent, because you're sure that they have active wallets. And even active is actually a function of 30 and 90 days. So on the continent, when we say active, it means that for every 30 days, you get one transaction come to it. Now, remittances would give it the opportunity to be more active than the 90-day measurement they use. So again, that is actually going in our favor with the people in this room. So what does that mean? What we're saying is that, look, if you look at it, digital will drive costs down and will give you 24-hour access. For 24 hours in a day, you can send money to a wallet. At the same time, you can send money to all the different options you see on number 2. But what I like the most is that digital is actually bringing cost as low as $1, as high as $1.50. Whereas if you use the banking network for cash pickup, you are paying as high as $6, as low as $3.50. So you as an MTO, you're also saving on money. At the same time, you decide to pass it on to the consumer, you are even reducing costs for the consumer. When we started business, cost of remittances was about 9.9, 13.5% of the total amount. Today it hovers between 5.5 to about 8.3% because the cost is going down. That's what digital is doing. But what I like the most is the fact that it also helps you to scale. On digital, you can start to sell different type of products to your customers. Okay, if you take Ghana and you profile Ghana, we have something called prepaid electricity. I don't know if it's common in this part of the world. Actually, it is. Here, you have prepaid electricity in the unit, right? Imagine my mom at about 9 p.m. doesn't have money. Her power is off. Because of the power of digital, you as a money transfer operator, you can actually enable it for someone to pay for prepaid electricity. We can actually commoditize power from this perspective using remittances. That's how far we want to change the world. And that's the thinking and the insight I want you guys to see. At the same time, in our part of the world, when somebody dies, usually you got to find about £1,000 and send home to pay for the coffin, to pay for the burial. You know, we celebrate even when people die. It's a big thing for us. It's is important to us. No, we got to clap for Africans. Well, the only ones who sell it when people buy. Yes, so we say bye-bye to you. But you have to find money to do that. Guess what? On Digital makes it easy for you because for the first time, the sender only has to pay £1 and can get insurance premium covered with a risk return of about 5,000 cedis. Back then, about 6 months ago, if you notice, Ghana, that's about $1,000. Today that has changed. But the point I'm making is that just with £1, their lifestyle has changed. That cost that you used to have to find $1,000 is gone. But that's the power of going on digital. If it's Christmas time, I can buy Netflix tokens and send it to my loved ones and they can watch Netflix. I can actually pay for other things using the digital platform. So that's the point where you start to see that cash pickup itself and brick and mortar is really dying. Everybody wants to go digital. That's why within a year we'll move from about 8.5 billion to 16 billion in total termination. And it will interest you when you even see Africa's contribution. What I wanted to do was to do a quick case study, which my colleagues will talk about on the next presentation, on microinsurance. Microinsurance has become the new remittance. It's become the new thing that everybody is holding on to. Because although I've just put one here, there are so many forms that there's hospital benefits, there's hospital payouts, and all these are well under £10. And at the next panel, you'll hear a lot about it. So you're starting to see that even from here, immigrants can start to take care of families back home. The narrative where you had to send money, it will go to Auntie Ajua, who will sit on the money for about a month and spend half of it with her family, and then give half of it to grandma, and then your family will take about maybe 50% of it. It's changed. Today, people send money literally every 10 seconds home. If I have a household of 5 people, I can send everybody their money on their wallets. And when they get their money, they can have access to over 360,000 distribution points to take their money out. So things are changing. And the same way things are changing is making it possible for you to sell more and more digital products to them. Of course, one of them being microinsurance. And this is where the world is going. And this is why we're here in this room today, to talk about all the things we can leverage. The beauty also of digital is that digital is making compliance more and more easy. At the touch of a button, you can monitor people, you can track people. At the touch of a button, you can do all your enhanced due diligence. You can do a lot of understanding from just that data. And that's the power that going digital starts to give you. Apart from the fact that it's cheaper as well. One of my colleagues would even talk about the fact that you can even get funding support. Let me qualify by saying terms and conditions apply. But you can see so much growth. As a company, we've seen so much growth that businesses have experienced just working on digital. Okay, settlements have become simpler, settlements have become easier. Now, what we are saying is that, look, Africa is contributing $8.5 billion on digital out of the 16 billion I showed you. But all the data is telling us that in the next 3 to 5 years, that digital will be 40 billion. And the hope and the desire is that we in this room will be part of that 40 billion. Because that 40 billion means you're going to save so much more money. You're going to be able to pass it on to the customers. You're able to give them free airtime. You're going to be able to improve your business. You're going to be able to leverage all that big data to turn your businesses around. And so, in the spirit of this morning, what we want to say is, let us all go digital, because digital is now. Mobile money is the new money, right? And in that spirit, I'd like to open the day, and I'd like to hand over to Clara so that we can move to the next panel. If you have a few questions, I'll take it. Otherwise, let's clap for on digital. And let's clap for 40 billion. What 40 billion is going to do for us over the next 3 years. Thank you. Okay, so I assume that we can start. Thank you.
Yes, we can start. Thank you very much, Andrew. And definitely, Africa is part of this. And in fact, Africa is leading the mobile money battle. And we can clap for Africa. On this note, I think I am ready for my first panel. I would mention your name. You will join me up on the stage. Kweku Apiaminka, kindly join me. Michael Nemo, kindly join me. Dede Kwashi. Okay. Fatih will be joining us online. Is he ready to connect? If he's not, we can proceed without him. Leveraging digital and mobile money for remittance payouts. Digital rails are key to achieving a more inclusive Africa. I think Andrew just made that very clear to us. We've seen when we started cards, how far cards took us. We've seen how far debit cards have taken us. We try to work on credit cards. We've seen how far credit cards are taking us. Then we've seen how far mobile money has taken us. We have leveraged technology to be able to get to where we are. And considering mobile money offers more than 1 million distribution network, I think it would be pure madness if we all don't jump on this bandwagon. So my panel today is going to look at how we are leveraging digital and mobile money for remittance payouts and beyond. I would introduce my panel and I'd allow you a few words to just give a brief summary of your institutions. Is Fatih joining us online? If you can hear me, Fatih, we are ready for you to connect. Hello, Fatih. Can you hear me? The power of technology. It's definitely called disruptive. Fatih, can you hear us? Okay. Yeah. Hello, Fatih. I think you are muted, so if you can unmute. He's not connected yet. Okay. Okay. So we can start and then have Fatih join us. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first panel, of which I am part of, by the way. So I'm actually going to be doing a double, performing a double role now. So I would ask that we introduce ourselves briefly. Is it, you can.
All right. Hello, my name is Michael, and it's a pleasure to be here. My company, The Angels, is working with ZPay for a while now, and I would say my story is similar to Master Kojo, the video that we watched. No, I didn't come from the village though. Yeah, but I mean, ZPay has made a lot of my business that I started very easier. So, and I'm looking forward that there is more opportunities for us to scale since we're working together. Thank you.
Good morning again. My name is Kweku Apiaminka, the MD of SIC Life Insurance Company in Ghana. We actually partner in ZPay to push the frontiers of financial inclusion, and since we're talking insurance, social inclusion as well. And we're happy to be here. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dede Kwashi. I work as a general manager for commercial at ZPay. Thank you all for honoring our invitation. It's wonderful to have you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Once again, my name is Clara Arthur. I work with the UNCDF. In Ghana, the UNCDF is implementing a project with SNV, which is a Dutch development agency, called the Green Project. It is the Green Project that is actually leveraging what ZPay has done to extend access and usage of financial services to the last mile. We are actually very happy to be part of this. We see what ZPay is doing, and we are happy that this project, which is funded by the European Union, which is the EU Emergency Trust Fund for Africa, and this fund actually, interestingly enough, is one that is set up, and the work that we do is actually in the Ashanti and Western region. And it's interesting why we actually chose these two regions, because data has pointed that in terms of remittances coming into the country, all points of entry or point of exit when it comes to migration is the Ashanti and the Western region. And that is why this project is focused on these two regions in Ghana. And it's a delight for us to work with ZPay, because we realize the power of using what ZPay has created to be able to extend financial services to the last mile. So today, I'm going to discuss this with my colleagues on this panel to be able to understand how the power of digital and what digital rails is actually doing for us. So to start off, and this is just to show that, I would start with Dede. Dede, we've seen ZPay start and where ZPay is today. We've seen ZPay start from Ghana, and we've seen ZPay in more than 15 countries and counting. I know ZPay is planning and wants to, the projection is to process $200 billion worth of value of transactions by 2023. I think that's something each time I walk into a ZPay office, that's what we are aiming to do. Tell us, how have we done it leveraging technology?
Thank you, Clara. I think that, first of all, ZPay set out as a fintech 2014, specifically because we identified a gap in the financial ecosystem where the unbanked, or the proportion of unbanked to banked, was really high in Ghana, 80% to 20%. And we decided that, look, the bottom of base, essentially, which really was the 80%, have not been served well as far as financial services are concerned. And how best can we penetrate, or how best can we serve them? And we looked at what are the ways. Banking is not doing the trick. What else can we do? How can we take services to them remotely? And one of the things was digital. If it's digital, then it's easier for them to access it. In Ghana and in a lot of African countries, I dare say, moving from a rural area to the urban area, or moving from the rural area to find a bank installation meant that you'd have to travel beyond 40 kilometers. Before, we thought the narrative was 5 kilometers. Up until 3 years ago, when we ourselves went on ground and we realized that, look, the ordinary Ghanaian in the rural community would have to travel beyond 20, 30 kilometers to actually find the next bank. And so it meant that access to financial services was next to zero. Leveraging digital, we've done a lot of things. Mobile money has been one of the things. Mobile money emerged on the scene about 5-10 years ago, and penetration has been good because we realized that most people have phones, right? And so it was easy for them to access that mobile money service. So we decided, leverage that, because it is a digital asset. Leverage that and use that to offer that financial service. Over the period in ZPay, back to your question, that's exactly what we have done. So as far as payment is concerned, we decided that we're able to now serve that ordinary Ghanaian in the rural community whose livelihood depends a lot on remittances. Why do I say the livelihood depends on remittances a lot? In Africa, we find that a lot of our family members have to travel across the border to be able to make a livelihood so they can take care of family back home. That's just the narrative, and that's just what happens in Africa. We all know this. I think 99% of people gathered in this room today are Africans, and so we're familiar with that narrative. Now, what that meant was it was easier for our brothers and sisters and our uncles and family members to send money back home. 90% of poor homes today depend on remittances. So DPay supported traditional remittance companies, MoneyGram being one of them, Small World being another of them, and the others. And over the period, we decided, hey, why not take this home? Why not provide the same service for our own people who are offering the service? So people like the Angels, we decided partner with them, and we're able to offer the service for them, because guess what? It is our own money that we're sending back home. Why do we have to leave it for someone else who's not familiar with the narrative to be sending the money? So over the period, that is how we've evolved in sending or in using or leveraging digital rails to be able to sort of facilitate payments, facilitate financial services. Now I say payments because beyond remittances, we do digital payments as well. ZPay has successfully become a mobile money company. So as we speak, we're able to also offer mobile money services in Ghana. And again, we're able to offer financial services such as, you know, the different products that we'll be talking about, not to take the wind out of your sail, but yeah. So it's been very exciting over the years since 2014. Today, we have a myriad of products that we're offering the Ghanaian community and the African community at large. Over 23 countries that we're serving today. Has been exciting.
Thank you very much, Didi. I think, wow, this is amazing. And I mean, we have seen the journey from one country to 23 countries and beyond. And this is the power of payments. This is the power of leveraging technology to terminate remittances. Kweku, coming to you now. I have heard how leveraging technology is delivering access and payments to Africa. Coming from SIC Life, I mean, this morning we started our discussion around insurance. I think anywhere outside of Africa, we talk insurance. In Africa, we talk insurance. I'm sure Kweku understands what I mean. African insurance. Coming from the background that you do, can you tell me what SIC Life is doing? First of all, perhaps throw some challenges when it comes to access to insurance, generally in Ghana, and how you're leveraging technology to deliver.
Thank you very much. For a country like Ghana with 30 million people, it's pretty easy to know that 19 million of us have mobile money accounts. Juxtapose this with the number who have bank accounts, which is 15 million. So there's a 4 million gap there that have more mobile money accounts. Again, the total value of e-money transactions for the month of May 2022 was 17 billion Ghana cedis. So that gives you an idea of what the market is like. In terms of insurance penetration, Ghana, the insurance penetration is only 2%. So if you have 90 million of your 30 million population with mobile money accounts, it's a no-brainer for a company like SIC Life to really go for the mobile money customers as well through the account. And it's important that we have on record 620 agents for mobile money, and compare that again to a number of bank outlets. Yeah. That is also clear that that is the way to go. And to be able to increase the penetration of insurance in the country, it's through mobile money, it's through partnerships with companies like ZPay, and that is why we've chosen ZPay, and that's why we are partnering with ZPay to make sure that we get closer to our customers and to increase the boundaries of financial inclusion and also the depths of social inclusion as a feature of life insurance and what it's supposed to do and indemnify us in terms of our needs.
Thank you very much, Kweku. I think you heard it all. I would come to the audience, so if you do have some questions, I want this to be very interactive. So I hope you are listening in and you would have some questions when it's time. So you heard what we're doing in Ghana.
That's
We've
right.
seen the gap, which has actually been clearly stated. I think what we have to do now is, you heard it, over 600 agents from SIC Life. For
That's
us,
right.
this is where we see the angels playing a role, and it's good that you're actually based in the UK. So can you tell us here what the angels is doing, leveraging technology to take advantage of what Quick just described?
Sorry. With regards to leveraging technology, especially for remittance space, let me give you a brief history of how I got into this partnership with ZPay. At the point in time, I wanted to send money to my girlfriend in Ghana, and
That always works.
I didn't have the time to send it, and going to Western Union, having to go through a whole lot of compliance processes, it was a bit frustrating. And knowing how fintech is already expanding here, I decided to look into it to see how best we can implement it towards remittances to Ghana. So I did a bit of research, started communicating with some of the mobile money companies in Ghana. And to be honest with you, in fact, I spent a lot of money buying tickets to go to Ghana to meet up with some of them, discuss what I have in place in the UK here and what, excuse me, we can also, partner together to implement all these processes. And at the point, one of the guys in the banking company saw how frustrated I was, and then he said, "Look, I need to talk to you, and I want you to meet someone." So I thought it was one of those guys trying to take advantage of me. So we drove, and lo and behold, we got to ZPay office, and I saw this vibrant gentleman. So I told him, "Look, I'm frustrated. I need this partnership with the company that we can do a proper integration." I said, "Then you're he said, "Then you're in the right place." So, behold, everything that I was looking for all this while was exactly what is available with ZPay. So, within less than a month, we did the integration and everything, and here we are. And we've managed to actually scale up. We are even looking to scale up as much as possible, and as well, I'm happy because with ZPay, it's easy to sell your services to your customers here, because besides the remittance, there's also the bill pay and other services which we are introducing to our customers as well. And I remember he mentioned to me some time ago about insurance. I said it's a good idea. So naturally, I'm not a person who likes to sit in the office. So I did a bit of research, spoke to some of the customers about how would you feel if you can send money, if you can have insurance in Ghana. To be honest, Ghanaian people are a bit funny when it comes to insurance, especially when they talk about life insurance. But then they realized that will actually be very beneficial to them, because the pressure that they get when somebody in their family passes away, at that very moment that they have to spend so much money, if there's something in place that will kind of take over that pressure, that will be very fantastic. So we met today, and then we started discussing about this, and this is something that I'm very looking forward to add to my system so that we can just provide to our customers.
Thank you very much, Michael. So, yes, it is interesting all three panelists actually talk about what we're doing or they're doing leveraging technology. So here, this is where we come in and the work we do in Ghana and why we are so passionate about this. Because what we've done is to partner with ZPay in Ghana to leverage their platform and leverage technology to design. And when I say design, what we do differently from other agencies, the fact that we actually go into the fields, and it's different when you sit up here and think, oh, I have a product, it has to reach. You're thinking of the outreach numbers, you come up with all your fantastic projections. But let me tell you something, when you go into the field, your product design completely changes. And we actually make sure that working with ZPay, we adopted the human-centered approach where we thought, look, let's go into the field, let's ask the people, what do we need? We're trying to extend financial services to the last mile. Last mile people are not you and I in this room. Last mile people are the people described in terms of 20 kilometers to the nearest point to transact, 5 kilometers to the nearest point. In the past, before we got here leveraging mobile money, we could actually go to places where literally you have to hang the device on a tree just to get to the highest point. I mean, we've actually done the work. And for me, it's great joy that today we can sit here and terminate transactions and it goes straight to the wallet. So what UNCDF sought to do, or we're doing under this project, is working with ZPay to design financial products for the last mile. And when I say last mile, trust me, these are, I mean, you can drive to the end and you actually ask yourself, what's the point here? But what ZPay is doing for us is that working with them, they've designed the microinsurance product that we are actually passionate about. We are passionate about the alliances and partnerships they have with the Angels here, who is a small payment institution. But the power you bring to this is the diaspora that you control. And like Dede rightly said, this is the market. These are the people working hard to actually send money back home. I mean, remittances forms almost 10% of Ghana's GDP from the last time. We thought COVID was going to actually cause people to start crying because people lost jobs. But we've actually seen, maybe a cliche here, but the silver linings of COVID, because we've actually seen transaction volumes go up because people are in need and everybody tries to make sure that they're able to remit. But what we've done is that we want to leverage this power of remittance that ZPay is terminating. Can we use that and have a micro insurance product which we have designed? And this micro insurance product for us is even dearer to us because it's focused on vulnerable groups. So we're making sure that it's focused on women, it's focused on the youth, it's focused on returning migrants. Is important because sometimes when they come back home, they're actually quite lost. Access to finance, even what sort of documentation they would use, is a challenge. But what we've done so well now is the fact that ZPay has designed these new products. So there's a savings product, which we'll talk about, and there's the micro insurance product as well, which we want to leverage the power of SPIs like the Angels. And Fatih, if he can hear me, is Fatih on? Okay, perhaps not, but
yes,
from great. So this is where I come to you and to ask you to tell us, take it from where I have left off, that what we are doing with ZPay is UNCDF supporting ZPay to design these new products targeted at people back home. Can you tell me how you are leveraging your relationship with ZPay for your business, if you can hear me?
Hi there, I can hear you very well.
Great.
Just to add to what you've been saying, before we started with ZPay, our transactions volumes to Ghana was almost nil, and today we do transactions in excess of 10,000 to Ghana because of the help we are getting from ZPay in terms of ZPay has literally made sending money in as easy as ABC from anywhere that we operate in to Ghana. Before we used to have a lot of transactions that was going to cash pickup, and we weren't able to really build the business the way we wanted it. But the moment we had ZPay, customers able to send money and in seconds it's in the wallet, it has really, grow our business exponentially. And all thanks to Day yourself, and Andrew has been very, very helpful. Anytime you have an issue, Day is always there to talk to you to make sure that your issues are sorted. And they have a fantastic customer service whereby any issues raised within
about maybe 30, 40 kilometers away from Aguna, the Aguna Nkwanta itself. And this is about another 30 minutes from Takoradi, for those of us who know. I'm just trying to give you an idea of the distance. And this is with all the bad roads and all the bumpy roads you can imagine. But we made it. And then we got to a village with a young lady who just turned 18 called Matilda. And I tell this story because I think even on the ZPay channels. And for me, it's the joy of what we do and the support we are giving ZPay and these products. Because quickly, let me tell you, we met this 18-year-old girl whose mom actually had a stall, and her mother said She actually was the mobile money agent, but when her daughter turned 18, she thought, why couldn't she actually become a mobile money agent? So you get to this village called Saint-Tiao. In the Akan language, it's more like Saint-Tie, which is like, if you don't listen, literally. I mean, you have all these interesting towns when you drive along. And for me, it's a joy to hear Matilda now, a ZPay agent, sitting on her tabletop with her nice ZPay umbrella, and she's happy to talk about microinsurance. And she has a notebook with phone numbers where she's actually gone ahead, because most of these towns have the community radio station. So you can be in the market area and all you have are announcements. And for me, this is just leveraging on the available infrastructure. And you would see Matilda, there are many Matildas across the country and beyond, where you would see young girls who are happy to talk about microinsurance. And that's the power of what you've just described. Social inclusion. How are we going to make sure that it's not just you and I who are the 2%, but to extend it to the informal sector? And for us at UNCDF, we are passionate about this and want to make sure that we help providers and financial service providers like ZPay to be able to do this and extend the partnership. So maybe just to round up, and then I would give the floor, can you just tell me in a few words what we expect to see from the Angels within the next 2 years? I'm keeping it 2 years because I'm looking at short term. Long term, I know we're going to do wonderful things. Within the next 2 years, can you quickly just wrap up and tell us what sort of products or what sort of solutions are we going to see from the Angels?
Regards to us, first of all, like with the microinsurance part of it, it's exciting because, I mean, growing up in Ghana, we used to see insurance as for the rich person. Yeah. Because now you have to go through the big insurance company, go through the whole lot of processes. But with this, easily, like you just mentioned, Matilda and all those people, easily they have access, they've got the information. Now they understand it's not just for any big man, but they are included and it can cover them for any eventuality. So based on that, it makes it quite easier for us here to also speak to some of the customers for them to understand that your life is just being turned around. And secondly, based on some of the conversations that we've had earlier, there's this thing called SUSU. I don't know, some of us Ghanaians, we understand. But people in the UK here, some of them come together as a group, put money together on a weekly or monthly basis and collect it when there's an eventuality or when there's an issue whereby they need to use the money for example, death in the family or any emergencies. But with this, it's similar to SUSU, but on a lower budget. So it's easily spending like £1 and getting all the benefits without any stress, and it's in a digitalized way. I'm sure, I mean, a lot of people are just going to be benefit from it. So within the next 2 years, as SBIs are going to make sure that we just scale it up. It's going to be easy to transport to other places. That's where we're looking to target ourselves at.
Thank you very much, Michael. Let me jump on to Kweku here.
Thank you. I'd like to pick it up from where my brother ended by mentioning SUSU. Interestingly, if you look at if you visit our website, SIS Life website, we have a product which is based on what you just described. It's called a Seeker Plan. It's a SUSU sort of scheme with insurance added to it. So just giving me an idea here, I think it's something that I can push through the ZPay platform.
Oh, yes.
And I'm sure since it's already here, it'll be an easy sell for the likes of you. I'd like to also add, end by saying that for SIS Life, our partnership with ZPay, I believe is something that we hold very dearly, and also it's given us a chance to interact with a lot of organizations and open their doors to a lot of countries that we really did not have any immediate plans of going to do business there, and we're very grateful for that. And as I said, we are planning on a product that is coming out pretty soon, and we are developing it with ZPay. It's not that we are developing and then ZPay will just have to help us distribute. It's something that we're doing, and if, as Dede knows, I think we've been having some presentations and stuff on it, and I think we should all, it's something we're very excited about, and it should hit the market pretty soon. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Dede, a few words. Remit to ensure.
You said 2 years?
Yes.
Okay. I'll be daring. Next 2 years, Ghana will have 100% insurance.
Oh, wow.
By virtue of microinsurance.
Oh,
By virtue
wow.
of microinsurance. And I say this with confidence, and it's not just out of the blue, really because of the work that we've been doing on the ground. I think that to a large extent, you know, that 98% that's excluded really are the people that really need microinsurance. They're not people that want ordinary insurance. They can't afford high premiums. So being able to give them that understanding, that deep understanding of the value of microinsurance. Look, if my household, I have 4 people in there who I'm paying salaries to, I can volunteer to pay on their behalf a certain minimum premium on a monthly basis or even an annual, premium. And guess what? When the person is unwell, they don't have to come to me and say, oh, I'm unwell today. They just walk up to the hospital and they get care. Or they now have access to financial services just by virtue of, microinsurance. And then beyond that, we've spoken about insurance, but for me, beyond that, the other services and products, which are financial services products, for instance, would mean that ZPay is now able to come up with different products. So bill pay is another one, where beyond insurance, I can now serve the ordinary Ghanaian with the ability, or create the ability for them to pay their bills, and then also create the ability for my family members here to support the home by directly paying their bills, so that there's no more interception where I sent money and my cousin has taken the money or has circumvented it for other purposes. But guess what? I'm able to now pay directly, and so my grandmother or my mother at home can stay with power on 24 hours without having any interruption. So for me, it's beyond insurance. We're coming up with different products and services. Look out for the products and services. It's not just Africa. For our potential partners who are looking beyond Africa also. We're going into the other corridors. Andrew mentioned Caribbean. So all these services, we're looking to replicate them in all of these markets as well.
Wow, wow, wow. Fati, if you can hear me, in the next 2 years, what am I going to get from you? Please take it from me. Is he there?
Dada, we want to grow exponentially with ZPay, and I'm very confident that we'll do very good volumes, definitely. So let's keep it up the way we are, and hopefully we'll all see that results soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fati. I think for me, coming here, I was like, okay, what's it going to be like? I need to make sure that Remit to Ensure gets to where it's supposed to be. But I think I'm delighted having met SPIs like yourself, see what SIC Life is doing, leveraging mobile money and remittance as well from ZP. I think for me, getting to 100%, as Dede said it, is actually attainable. And together, we can all make it. On behalf of everybody else, my panelists Dede, I'd like to say thank you. Kweku, I'd like to say thank you. Michael and Fati, and thank you to myself. I'd like to say thank you to all of you. Until we meet on the next panel, enjoy the rest of the program. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Yes, I will do that. So, please.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, taking off my role as moderator, I'm back as being the MC. Yes. So it's called multitasking. You know, when you go for that job interview and they ask, can you multitask? We say yes. All other responsibilities added, yes. You never say no, but oh, no. I do it so well. So at this point, I think we've been sitting for a while. We would break for lunch. How much time do we have for lunch? We can do. So yes, I think we are running behind, and I really want us to come back because we've got a second panel. So we will have lunch now, break for 45 minutes, and then we'll come back for the second panel. So kindly follow me and then I would show you where we'd go. See you in 45 minutes. Thank you very much.
Now, let's check the camera. Hey, what's the name? Oh. That's not you. Big boy now. I can't do it. Wow. Look at you. Oh, wow. Like, so I thought you were some of the things which are you okay? Okay for me, wow. That's what you see your turn. When are you leaving? 40 years. Why she's at work We'll talk to you. Mike, can you put the screen back up? Is it possible? Can you put the screen back up? It's on your Ben, now let's see.
influence in options. 22 o'clock, I think I'm okay. I'm in fact graphic going to screen this.
Yuri.
No, that's it.
You know this camera? Mobile phone.
Where is it?
That too.
That's good.
I hear
Sam.
Who's helping with the, apparently, who's doing the streaming, the Facebook?
The streaming, yes.
YouTube.
Apparently I hear the podium is covering where I'm seated. So I don't know if we can.
Yeah, your podium. I mean, the city, the way they
Yeah, I think it's the way
we'll
have
run
to.
to a
So
real.
that for the next
For the next
panel.
session,
Yes,
it'll be much
please.
clearer.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yep. Give me 1 sec. I'm coming. Microphone open.
Can you see this camera? Oh, no.
Which camera is that?
From here, from this angle.
I thought it was one of the CCTV.
Oh, okay.
No,
Right.
it's a mobile phone.
Oh, really? Oh, it's the phone on the side.
So how you connecting to it?
Right.
Via what?
Yeah,
Internet.
it's just a
wireless,
mobile phone. Yeah, wireless mobile phone.
Okay, I'm here.
Bring it in.
So now I don't know. This is. But it may be your system.
No, it's not maybe. It's yours.
My only thing is, if I restart, if I want to restart, I'm not sure what will happen to the YouTube.
No, the YouTube, you went off your battery when.
No. What I'm doing, I'll not cut the YouTube. I'll restart the system. Hopefully, the link should still be active on YouTube.
Okay.
Because I haven't stopped it.
We have
many
to.
people that are
I'll end this one. Yeah, it's
not that many.
so far, only explanation fee, and that's it. Because they wanted to watch it, somebody requested their more stuff. Small boy outside.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back from lunch. If I find anybody dozing, I'm going to come around with my collection bowl. And I'm Presbyterian, by the way, so just so you know. And another interesting thing about the Presbyterian church is when we say youth, so I'll be looking around. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. As the moderator for panel 2, we have a video I will be playing, so sit back and enjoy with watching you.
In 1983, when we arrived in Europe, we couldn't send money home. We always had to wait for someone going home, which was always rare. First, we had to find a fast-world guest. When they got home, they took the days to weeks to deliver the funds. Save up and meet me here and
Okay, thank you. Just
we've come a long way.
sorry.
Wow. Yeah.
In 1983, we've come a long way. In 1983, when we arrived in look. We couldn't send money home. We always had to wait for someone going home, which was always rare. First, you'd have to find a trustworthy person and then politely ask the favor. Then, when they got home, it took them days to weeks to deliver the funds. Several phone calls, and meet me here, and no meet me here. Sometimes they even left the money behind with a relative who never delivered the money. It was truly frustrating. Union finally came to Africa. Everyone could now receive funds by going to the bank to collect cash. We thought it was so innovative because you would get a code called the MTCN code. You then have to walk to a bank and meet a VAT cashier who would often waste your time and intimidate you before serving you. Then after 2 hours, you are called to collect your cash. The days when you could only go to ADB and the Agro days. Then comes 2016 and ZPay comes on the scene with a novel disruption that simplifies money transfer and improves the compliance process. Wow, no long terms. Felicity, would you like to say more?
Thank you. ZPay, a Ghanaian fintech, has changed the narrative by leveraging technology to provide an inclusive platform for remittance payments into mobile money wallets. The disruption ZPay brings in this space evolves beyond fast processing of transactions to automating the entire compliance process without compromising our regulatory integrity. We have been committed to serving the last mile and have sought to understand our customers in the diaspora and beneficiaries back home. To offer them multiple options to send, we currently partner with over 40 odd money transfer operators just to be able to empower consumers globally. Over the period, we have embarked on a series of programs both on send and receive side to drive customer education on the new ways to send and receive their remittances digitally. We ran a demonstration project in an immigrant enclave in Spain called VIC, where we'll typically hold town hall meetings, engage agents of money transfer operators to educate them on the digital channels to send funds back home. In Ghana, we take to the streets and remittance hotspots and have one-on-one engagements with customers, all to drive the cause of digital termination of remittances. Today, you can receive your remittance directly into your ZPay mobile money under 7 seconds. We provide world-class service delivery to our partners and beneficiaries. Gloria.
Indeed, our focus has been to drive home the message of financial inclusion, hand-holding recipients through the entire remittance journey, where it's no longer people traveling to the bank and staying at the security post because they are intimidated by the suit and ties, but understanding that the money from BRA Kofi is just a phone call away. We've done that through a series of campaigns, a good example being the Follow the Money campaign, where we proactively contact recipients the minute the transaction hits and educate them on the pickup process. Our 24/7 support services, even in the thick of the pandemic, has empowered our recipients and driven home the importance of their freedom to choose. Our mobile money wallets have also given our customers the absolute freedom to do with their funds as they please, of course within the confines of regulation, and we will yet again handhold them with our consumer education campaigns.
Less than 7 seconds, anyone can transfer from MoneyGram directly into their ZPay mobile money wallet, and the cash is available for collection at over 150,000 agent points nationwide. So instead of walking 21 kilometers to the bank to spend 2 hours with an intimidating cashier, it's a 2-minute walk to a ZPay mobile money agent to collect your cash. And since there are so many of them, there are no queues. Times have changed and ZPay is leading the way. Shine your eye.
Shine your eyes indeed. Thank you very much for that. That's a brilliant video. So, at this time, it's a pleasure to hand over to somebody else. I've been looking forward to this. No, just need a break. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to listen to the second panel, and it's a pleasure to invite a colleague here who's going to take over for this. She's actually got a very exciting career spanning over 15 years experience in business development, relationship management, and management consulting. She relocated to Ghana, so diaspora, like all of the things I see, where she worked for PwC and played a key role in developing the SME products linked to banks, so that's good. She currently is with Intelligent Capital and deeply entrenched in supporting early stage entrepreneurs. Good. The organization is currently focused on implementing a project in partnership with MasterCard Foundation for the Mastercard Foundation's Young Africa Works. That's a good one. The implementation spans over some 50 enterprises to deliver training across the country. As one of the pioneers in the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Ghana, she's often engaged, which I like, to support initiatives such as Seed Stars, Cosmos Innovation Challenge, Ghana Climate Change Innovation Center, and Reasonable Labs, British Council, Japa Challenge, etc. and etc. Ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome Letitia Brown, who is going to moderate the second panel and tell you all about the second panel. Letitia, over to you. And mind your step.
I was already looking out.
Exactly.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so let me welcome my fellow panelists to the stage, and we can do the introductions as one up here. So Roxy, would you like to join me? Andrew, and I believe Emmanuel is online. Okay, so good afternoon. Thank you very much, Clara, for that interesting introduction. I'm not sure where you pulled all of that information from, but I appreciate it. Thank you. My name is Letitia Brown. As Clara mentioned, I'm a director at a company called Intelligent Capital, and essentially we work with development partners, we work with government to design and develop private sector initiatives to spur economic growth within Ghana. Typically, what that looks like is facilitating investments for smaller institutions. So it's quite interesting that we get to talk about that today on this panel to a degree, as we're talking about the small payments institutions and how we need to open up the space and create an equal playing field so that we can be more inclusive in our business practices. I think that one of the reasons why I've been supporting ZPay over the last few years with programs such as this and the like is because one of the key roles that I've been playing is as a technical advisor at the presidency in Ghana around SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, and financial inclusion has really been one of the key aspects of the focus of the work that we have done there. So I've been fortunate enough to support ZPay on a few events, and I'm really glad to be here in London today to have this discussion with all of you and to meet some of the interesting people in the room. I'll hand over to Roxy to make his introduction. I'm not going to try and do justice to his huge title and all of the work that he does at Crown Agents Bank, and then Andrew, maybe you can follow him and then we'll start the discussion.
Success. Thanks, Letitia. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Roxy Geoffrey. I currently stand as a VP. Hello? Yeah, perfect. So I currently serve as a VP within Crown Agents Bank's Financial Crime Compliance team. And I've been at the organisation for just shy of 3 years, and I look after our correspondent banking vertical. So that essentially looks after our new and existing respondent relationships from an AML perspective globally. For anyone that's not familiar with Crown Agents Bank, we are a regulated global wholesale institution based in the UK. We provide FX payments and pensions to far-reaching parts of the world, working with the likes of banks, NGOs and fintechs like ZPay, really connecting some of these far-reaching markets to the global economy, moving money essentially where it's needed. But absolute pleasure to meet you all, and thank you for having me.
Good afternoon, everybody. Once again, I'm back. So my name is Andrew, and everybody knows me on the platform. I'm actually on this platform basically to talk about the banking opportunities and other banking-related activities that will help SPIs in their bid to grow. In terms of ZPay, as you all know, we're a cross-border payment company. We specialize in remittance and payments across many global destinations. Thank you.
And we also have Emmanuel, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
I'm Emmanuel Seffield. I'm actually head of treasury for ZPay. I'm actually here to talk about our settlement processes with regards to the multiple currencies that our partners, do settle us. So I'll actually, zoom into more about the settlement process when it's time for me to talk.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Okay, so the conversation we're going to have today, I think we've all been really inspired to hear about all of the transformation that's been taking place within the remittances space, payments, etc. But today we're going to actually talk about some of the challenges. But I'm a big believer in not talking about challenges unless we counteract that with opportunities and solutions as well. So we're going to jump into that discussion with my fellow panelists here. Specifically focusing on the challenge of de-risking, right? And then talk about some of the solutions that we have with safeguarding and some of the services and solutions and products that may be available to some of these small payment institutions. So I'd really like to just open up the discussion by asking the question and both, I think maybe Roxy and Andrew can come in with a response here. How do we actually see de-risking as being a threat to the increase or the expansion of financial inclusion? Roxy, do you want to start off and then we can move to Andrew?
Absolutely, of course. So I guess if we look at the terrain, I guess for the last kind of half a decade or so, we've seen a lot of kind of de-risking, certainly amongst some of the tier one banks. And I kind of categorize that down to one major reason. I think there's loads of kind of reasons that fall into that, but I think one that I wanted to particularly talk about is knowledge. And when I talk about knowledge, I want to kind of break it down into three main buckets. So I think the first is lack of knowledge in banks. So I think certainly for the last couple of years that the banks have been playing catch up really. I think there's a growing number of fintechs, in the UK, US, and some of the frontier and emerging markets that, banks are struggling to really understand. And when I say understand, I'm not, simply just talking about, second line financial crime compliance and, us having a pulse essentially on what they do. But even kind of the relationship managers, as we've seen, a number of fintechs can change their business model, in the space of a day. And I think that's the kind of beautiful nature about some of these firms, right? But I think it's that ability, certainly within some of the banks to kind of understand their business model and I guess understand the risks that are associated to that. In which case, threats or, potential cause for concerns are escalated to the right team, so on and so forth. I think that segues into another strand of knowledge around kind of lack of knowledge in the regulators. And I think regulators are probably in a similar space to the banks. As much as, banks are playing catch up, so are the regulators, right? And we know, how challenging it could be to, maybe get a safeguarding account with the FCA or maybe get regulated in a particular jurisdiction. And really just kind of bringing in the right people that understand some of these organizations. And I think the last piece there is the fintechs themselves. As ambitious and, rewarding as some of these institutions are, particularly in the early stages and that nascent part of their journey, sometimes there's a lot of issues like just lack of funding perhaps. Maybe there isn't an ability to bring in people that are experienced and understand the business model. So I think knowledge in that respect leads us to kind of the worst case scenario when some fintechs will be unfortunate to kind of, cut corners or, do anything of that nature to really kind of keep up the pace and really access, that financial access. And I think, to your point there, Letitia, that ecosystem is, has some negative impacts, of course, around kind of the financial inclusion piece, which I think could be, tackled or in essence bettered if knowledge is kind of ramped up across all those three segments.
Thank you, Roxy. We'll definitely talk a little bit more about the solutions as we move on. But Andrew, what's your perspective? Do you see de-risking as holding back or preventing growth within the space?
Okay, so Letitia, thank you, Roxy, thank you. I think first I want to take it back and just briefly touch on de-risking, just so we're all on the same page. So de-risking basically, simply put, is when a bank decides that for some reason it's not going to work with a particular institution. Unfortunately, banks tend to stigmatize money service business and fintechs a lot. So they de-risk us. I mean, our nickname is de-risked, basically, when it comes to banks. Now that we've explained that, I definitely think that it's de-risking, it's having a massive impact on the missing middle when it comes to financial inclusion. Missing middle being the corporates and not the last mile. In that, obviously, if you don't open bank accounts for them, they cannot transact. If you have a bank account and you cannot keep the bank account, then your business literally will not grow because you'll be running a suitcase money. In essence, you'll be doing money laundering, basically. It's almost as if the system is cursing you to become a money launderer. So I think definitely has a negative impact. It will slow it down. But of course, there are some positives. The positives are all the FCA activities on open banking. All these PSD2 in itself was designed to move the market in that direction so that the risking will be decoupled or stopped to some extent. The other thing also is that for financial inclusion, the growth of financial inclusion, I think that the challenge that de-risking brings to it is the fact that it limits the players in the game, because all of a sudden you start to have only the ones who qualify, the mature entities, start to be able to play the game. And that in itself also stifles growth from a financial inclusion perspective. Today, if you look at the players in the market, it's only about 20 of us who probably have some serious bank account. Otherwise, everybody is using some kind of online account, which is expensive. And then also there are the rules around it. The FCA has a safeguarding rules. So if you're de-risking your online and you don't have a safeguarding account, you're in breach. So it has major impact on the ecosystem.
Thank you, Andrew. I just want to, before we move on to the next question, Roxy, you spoke about knowledge, right? Lack of knowledge within some of these financial institutions and also the regulators. But surely this is out of choice. I mean, we're talking about large-scale institutions with multi-million-dollar budgets, right? They have the access to the resources to be able to acquire this knowledge, buy databases, do the necessary research themselves. So I'm kind of getting the sense that maybe there's not an incentive there for them to actually put in that extra work. Maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Sure, I think that's a really good point, Letitia. So I think if we strip it down to its bare bones, of course, a lot of the big banks will look at commercials in the first instance. So I mean, if you've got maybe a small institution that has 10 clients and then unlikely to put through a lot of traffic, some of the banks are less likely to engage. But I think, to your point, absolutely, I think there should be a greater emphasis on understanding the models because there is budget for it, put simply. But to what extent do some of these senior execs that sit on the 35th floor in an office in Canary Wharf really understand some of these models, right? They can do it. Maybe it's out of laziness in some cases, but there is a piece there around kind of furthering their understanding. And yeah, absolutely, maybe there should be a kind of a budget put aside to do exactly that.
Okay, so I mean, now let's maybe jump into what some of the solutions may be. Because as you were speaking, I'm just kind of thinking about the sector of which I work in. And oftentimes you get investors saying, it's going to cost me the same amount of money to do diligence on a $5 million transaction as it is a $500,000 transaction. So why not just focus or push the funds and the resources towards the bigger opportunity, right? So Andrew, how do you think that we can think about incentivizing, or what things can we put in place to try and incentivize these larger scale institutions to participate? Because it seems like it could be a real stumbling block.
Okay, so I think first of all, let's start from regulatory. FCA in its wisdom has done a lot of work, and like I said, under PSD2, there's been different models and approaches that are designed to get the banking system to open up.
Sorry, PSD2.
PSD2 is basically, so FCA for fintechs, we used to have PSD1, Payment Systems Directive 1. Then we moved to PSD2. PSD2 allowed for the APIs, open banking, etc. It was really designed to open up the system and push traffic.
So it's
through.
progress.
It's progress,
Yeah.
significant progress. Then we have the Khalifa program, which is the Khalifa report, which was another hand-holding program, which was designed to force the banks to go a certain direction. Okay, so the incentives from a regulatory standpoint is there. I think FCA too, in its wisdom, has become a lot more open to different models, especially because from March this year, UK has lost almost 200 banks because of obviously what happened with Brexit. So they become a lot more open and a lot more engaging. So it's really about FCA to maybe starting to look at what we call light banks, which will be able to have branches and be able to serve the so-called de-risk group of customers or potential de-risk group of customers. So that's one. But then I think also, let's talk about players. And I agree with Roxy that sometimes a lack of understanding is what creates that perception. I mean, we've had situations where we have clients who were de-risk and they had business, they had good business, but they were de-risk. We also have clients who were de-risk and they had small business and risk. So it's not because of a particular meter band or a particular argument that says that because of your nature of your transactions, but it's simply, he's a banker, he can say that, I can say that, but it's simply a weaker way of looking at it without using his word, right? He used the word lazy, but I didn't use that word. It's just a weaker way of looking at it and not looking at it with the true lens. I think that if they took the trouble to understand, so maybe we from industry should start having these platforms, a lot more of these platforms. Let's start targeting the city boys, bring them in to understand these models more. Because clearly the private equity and the VCs understand it. And their money goes to the banks or it comes from the commercial banks to some extent. So let's get them into the room to understand the models more. I think the time has come for us to put them on our boards so that when they're on our boards, they also appreciate it more and they realize that actually their risk is curtailed. And then the front truth is that whatever you do, when you're small, you will not be able to afford the likes of Roxy, you can't afford FinCrime, etc. So maybe even we as startups start looking at.
I'm not very expensive, by the way, but.
I was wondering what was going on. I'm like, am I missing the joke?
No, it's true. It's FinCrime experts are very expensive. More so compliance staff, people in the city are very expensive. But maybe even those in the compliance industry are evolving to start looking at third-party platforms where they provide compliance as a service, not in terms of platform transaction, but advisory, because really that's the missing gap as well. So I'm looking forward to having a RegTech fintech that or startup that will emerge that is compliance advisory and it's embedded, like Squad does it for HR, right? Which end-to-end does it for FinCrime, and therefore maybe it will help also take away that bias. Then I think the last thing about that, removing the bias, is really let's just talk about it. Let's put a whole campaign about it. We've got the glass ceiling bias. Let's look at also the compliance bias, because in itself is another glass ceiling. Yeah. So I think these are some of the incentives we can put in there, because from a regulator standpoint, they've done everything they need.
I picked up two key things from what you just said. One is that there's just a plethora of opportunities that are emerging because of this, relatively new sector that we call fintech, right? And all of the different services that could be provided to different players within that ecosystem. Advisory services, Roxy being one. I hope you have your notebook. This could be a side hustle for you. Oh, the boss is here. Sorry, I take that back.
Conflict of interest.
But I'm also hearing you say that there is no real kind of like methodology for de-risking some of these firms. So you could have a large P&L, so to speak, and still be de-risked, and then you could be really tiny and be de-risked. So how do the payment institutions actually navigate this? We'll come to that, and I'd like to actually, engage with some people in the room also as when we get to the Q&A. But Emmanuel, do you have anything to say on either of these points before we move on to the next question? You're muted.
Wow. All right, thanks everyone. So actually, with regards to what we do in terms of remittances, I'll talk about what.
I think maybe you didn't hear. Did you hear the question?
Yes. So you want me to talk about the settlement flow, right?
No, maybe there was a break in the line. What I was actually saying was that in terms of de-risking, there doesn't seem to be a specific guidebook, for want of a better word, or a framework that is used. So companies are being de-risked at all different sizes. So it's difficult for you to kind of like predict what the outcomes could be. And I was just asking whether you had anything to add to the conversation. Yeah.
Well, just before Emmanuel comes on board, I think also it's important that we correct this. So there is a rule book. The rule book usually is targeted towards delinquency. Delinquency in the world of compliance is not following the procedure or the protocol.
Okay.
However, largely de-risking is not because you were delinquent. You know what I mean? Even though still in the world of compliance, they de-risk you because of a certain layer of lack of availability or some amount of delinquency. But really, sometimes when you follow it, there's no argument. So you're right. I just want us to be clear that people are delinquent, so they get de-risked.
It's not completely abstract.
Right,
Yeah,
it is.
but
It's very important,
I get
otherwise we're hurting ourselves.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, so Emmanuel, anything to chip in, or should we move on to the next question?
Well, can we move on to the next question, please?
Okay, sure. I think Andrew said it all.
Andrew said it all.
Okay, so one of the things that we also spoke about, and I think both of you mentioned this in your responses before, was safeguarding, right? And I guess it piggybacks on what we were saying about de-risking. It's really about, I guess, these smaller institutions really understanding what they have to do. How do they comply? As best as they can. I mean, you have to put your best foot forward at the end of the day, right? If the decision as to whether you're going to be de-risked is out of your hands, at least you can show up in a suit and tie and try to, make a good impression. So how do SBIs access safeguarding accounts? What is the benefit of this? Because I also get the sense that some of them are not even aware of these options and how they can support them in their business transactions.
Yeah, that's a good question, Letitia. I think I'll answer this through the lens of a respondent institution. So I guess from Crown Agents Bank's perspective, I won't talk about kind of FCA's thresholds and kind of their minimum qualifying criteria, so to speak. But I think being able to kind of put your best foot forward in a compliance capacity deems you most likely to have access to some of these accounts. And when I say kind of put your best foot forward, I mean certainly the way I look at it is, just for kind of simplicity's sake. But if we look at kind of first line, compliance procedures, if we look at, onboarding, we want to make sure that the onboarding is nice and slick. We want to make sure that it's fit for purpose. How do you risk rate your customers? Do you have a 3-tiered model? Is it low, medium, high? How do you conduct your sanction screening? And without, going into, granular detail there, it's just making sure that the AML framework is watertight. And I think if you're put in that kind of position, it's less likely that some of the institutions that are looking to onboard you are likely to say no. I mean, if they are going to say no, and going back to Andrew's point, it could be maybe it's a concentration risk. Maybe they've got a number of entities in a particular country, they're not looking to bring any more on, or perhaps, you fall short of their kind of prophecy thresholds. So, so the key takeaway there is really kind of beef up your AML framework and make sure you're really kind of putting your best foot forward.
Okay, so where do these institutions get access to that information about the AML framework? Let's get a little bit granular here. For maybe someone that's in the room or listening that may not know how to or what necessary steps to take.
Sure. So I think certainly in parts of I'll put it in kind of the global north and global south, right? So if we look at kind of the UK, US, Canada, a lot of kind of industry best practices are available online. So you can see, what good looks like, what bad looks like. I think we've been privileged from Crown Agents Bank's perspective is to kind of visit some of the far-reaching markets, and there's almost a black hole in terms of information. So, you know, you can visit an island that has inhabitants of 500,000 people. You know, 10 banks on the island. They're not entirely sure what good will look like. You know, and, you know, you also get into a culture where, you know, MLROs or maybe heads of compliance, beyond kind of pleasantries, don't engage very much with each other. So, see, what I'd probably say there is, and I know some of the bigger banks are starting to do it, and certainly we are at Crown, is having almost like a correspondent banking seminar where, you know, you can pull together, you know, all of your clients and say, you know, based on what I've been able to see, this tends to work well, this doesn't quite work well. And, you know, they can then make an informed decision and say, actually, maybe I can implement this as part of my framework. And I think that kind of connectedness spans kind of wide and far, in that if, you know, 2, 3, 4 banks are doing it in a particular country, naturally there's going to be a spillover, and it's almost going to be like a domino effect.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks very much for that insight, Roxy. And I think, once again, just another opportunity. Dede, I hope you are taking notes there of some thought leadership seminars that maybe we could do for your business community, Andrew. So yeah, Andrew, your perspectives on this.
So repeat the question again, though.
He was in deep thought about the next project. No, I was just talking about safeguarding, right, from your perspective. What do you see for maybe an organization that's reluctant or hasn't thought about taking this road? What would your advice to them be?
So again, I could only, it's almost like I need to start from a regulatory standpoint all the time. You must have a safeguarding account.
So it's a must.
It's a must. The concept of safeguard in the other parts of the world, we call them trust accounts. Yeah. That safeguarding account simply means that all client funds must be held in a safeguarded account. Yeah. And you cannot hold on to it for more than 24 hours, right? Traditionally, tops 48 hours. So you need a safeguarding account. The question is, do people have safeguarding accounts out there? A lot of time you find that sometimes not. Sometimes they are operating through a regular bank account. So there's nothing wrong with a regular bank account. The only problem is that from an FCA standpoint, you are not safeguarding. They want to see that you have a legally opened account called safeguarding account. It's actually a special type of account. You cannot commingle your own operational fund to the safeguarding fund account and all of that. So you need it. So you can't do without it. But the reality on the ground, very few MSBs have a safeguarding account.
Okay.
Because the banks don't want to, for many reasons. Sometimes I've just learned a new thing today, sometimes because of the concentration risk. You know what I mean? I actually never thought about it until Roxy said it. So I think really you can't say you don't want it. Now that you can't say you don't want it, if you have a regular bank account, then at least safeguard on that account. Use that account only for client transactions until the day somebody will be merciful to open a safeguarding account for you. And hopefully when the regulator comes, you might get some mercy, because you need a safeguarding account. So I think the big question is, how do we move on from here? And that's why I think that maybe the FC needs to start looking at light banks. You know what I mean? We've had new banks. Light banks they have 1, 2, 3 branches. They have limited set of activities they can do. And one of them is safeguarding. One of them is being able to be transactional, but compliance follows the money. So every transaction is literally covered and it follows a certain protocol. But really that's you being able to vary your permissions with FCA to be able to do. And FCA, if they are listening to us, being merciful to move to that direction. Otherwise, what's going to happen is what you see in the next 5 years, in the next 2 years, you see a lot of cash-based businesses will die because they don't have safeguarding accounts, and they'll be left with only the big players. And I think that's something FCA doesn't want. FCA definitely is a very competitive regulator. They want to see competition in the market because that brings balance and innovation.
Okay, so once again, I think we're going back to this question of knowledge, right, and understanding. So what do you think are some of the practical things that we can do, right, to bridge this knowledge gap? I mean, you're talking about FCA, you know, disseminating this information, etc. I mean, just to wrap up the conversation, a couple of maybe quick next steps, low-hanging fruits. What are, on both sides, right, from Crown Agents Bank, ZPay, both key players in this industry. How do we begin to tackle this?
Not being a bank, I might be the best to answer. I think Crown Agent being a bank should start So look,
I think there's two perspectives though. So
I
we
know.
can take yours
Unfortunately,
and
I'll come from the non-bank. So in consulting, Big Four, we had something we called private clients, PCS, right? The private client services. Maybe banking needs to start having SME services that are targeted at MSPs, and build a specialized knowledge into it. Maybe go into the MSPs and pick their compliance people, pick their fin crime team and make them your staff. Go out and pick people and start looking at this portfolio and then come up with a policy that says compliance follows the money and be strict about it. Handhold these guys and let them do it. But really, my call to action, it's if your MD is watching us today, it's really, let's really start looking at this. Do you see what I mean? So I think that's a quick low-hanging fruit. Really, that is a quick low-hanging fruit.
And Roxy, with your banker hat on, what was your perspective of this be?
You know what? Surprisingly, I'd actually agree with Andrew on that one. And I say
Can I join your company then?
Absolutely. And I say that because if we look at our model in particular, Crown Agents, we have kind of different teams that work in different parts of the world based on specialism. So we have a desk that focuses on emerging and frontier markets. We have one desk that focuses on banks and NBFIs. We have another desk that focuses on international development organizations. And I think being particular and deploying intelligence and expertise where it's needed helps kind of a banking position. One, to understand, and that feeds quite nicely into your knowledge point. And I guess on the other side, from a fintech, you can probably end up doing the same thing. I'm conscious of kind of capital constraints, but I think we're in an age or era where technology is king, and I think that's been the theme across the day, right? In that there's a lot of information that's available in open source. So we're really kind of tapping into that and see where things are applicable to your business model, and really kind of using that as a basis to then develop your AML framework. And I think those two together will go hand in hand and really enable to kind of giving you your best possible outcome.
Thank you. Okay, so that brings our core discussion to a close, but I'd definitely like to open up to the participants to see if there are any questions. There's a question pending over here, and then we'll just take it around the room. And do you have an extra mic? Yeah. I think there's one here. Yeah. Clara. Yeah. I'll have that. Sorry, the lady was waiting first, Clara. She's been waiting for a while, actually. As soon as I made my introduction, she had a question.
Hello, so my name is Janice. I work in compliance. I do reg change in compliance. Just to add to what Roxy was saying about lack of knowledge, which is a problem. I think that's why our regulators have tried to introduce diversity. But then from a reg change implementation, that's where the problem is. Most of us are looking at diversity at the board level. Diversity should cut across, not just at board level, because diversity is not gender, it's skill and knowledge. So if we have diversity trickling it down to senior management, head of product development, head of wholesale banking, because of the diversity in knowledge, we will start to look at the SMEs, we'll start to open up and onboard them. Because if we don't do it, we are losing revenue. It's not good for us. So from my perspective, okay, one of the solutions is diversity, not limiting it to senior management or board level, but trickle it down. Because as Andrew said, we need to bring the city boys on board. The young, vibrant, digitalized age. Diversify it, and then they will move the products and open it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Yep. Can I just say that I think that's a really interesting point, right? Because diversity at the board level is supposed to have that trickle-down effect, isn't it? The reason why we say we want to see more women or more people of color, people from more diverse backgrounds, is so that innovation within the organization can take place. You having an understanding of remittances because you're of African descent and saying that this is a product or a service that we should be thinking about offering, which may not have come from a white Caucasian male, so to speak. So I think that that's a really interesting point, and I think that that's definitely something maybe that, you know, as a large corporate organization, you can maybe kind of champion that going forward within your own organization, and hopefully others will follow suit. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, yeah. My name is Kamal. My question is for Roxy. And I want to ask, you know, suppose here is other payment institution who got a license from the FCA and HMRC. You know, how do you think that the lack of knowledge of the remittance business, you know, they got a license from the FCA in same entity where you get a license and we get a license, and how you can say that the lack of knowledge to us, right? One things. And how open you are to open the bank account? You are focusing only Africa or other countries as well? It's for Roxy.
So I guess 2 questions there, right?
Yeah, 2 questions.
Yeah. So I think the first, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying kind of what is the key differences between, you know, some of a newly regulated business versus some of the bigger names that have been authorized by the FCA, for example. Am I right in saying that? Yeah. Okay, so I guess it's particularly difficult, right? So I mean, if we even look at the remittance space, someone that's recently licensed is essentially being compared to the likes of Western Union or Ria Money Transfer or you know, MoneyGram, which are the 3 biggest in the game. So I think there's a lot of pressure there, but I think at the same time it's an opportunity to kind of learn from, you know, some of the giants, so to speak, and I guess really kind of trickle down what you've seen them do and then apply it to your business. And I guess the second question is around focus. So, I mean, yes, we have a big presence in Africa. I think it's probably easier to say some of the currencies we don't offer rather than the ones that we do. But we have an international presence. So we have really kind of deep entrenched relationships in the Caribbean, Latin America, Asia, as well as, you know, the UK, US, Canada. And we're looking to kind of go wider and deeper. So yeah, we're pretty much everywhere.
You mean you welcome the that's the remittance who are in remittance market, suppose the API or SPI, you welcome to open the account, I means you are open for that one.
Yeah, absolutely, after the necessary checks, of course.
Yeah, actually you do your assessment and we have to pass your due diligence and all those things. After those things, you are open, yeah?
No, absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I'm from a company originally from Somalia, and we have been in the cash-based business for the last 15 years. So we have had all these de-risking problems and bank account problems. But we still managed to survive for the last 15 years. My question is the safeguarding. The safeguarding account, is it mandatory for all business MSPs, regardless of the transaction size, which I think is not. The second question regarding safeguarding is a cash-based MSP. How can they get safeguarding, even because as I know, the banks are very difficult to deal with cash these days. So are you telling us the situation has changed in a way, and there are ways or the ways we can prove ourselves that we can be accommodated? Those are my 2 questions regarding the safeguarding.
Okay. So I'm answering you in my capacity as Andrew, and not in any other capacity, not even the capacity of ZPay. So I'm answering you from the experience I've had. What I think, the first thing I think you have that's working for you in your further is that you've been around for about 15 years, so that's very good. I think the next thing I would advise is whatever structures you don't have, put it in place now, because really you are safe to play. You've operated for that long, it means that you're a safe business, right? So whatever structures you don't have, put it in place. I can help you with my little experience that I've learned over the years, so that I'll be able to help you. The third thing I want to say is find a partner that can terminate for you, because that gives you that compliance you're looking for. Okay, so that's the third thing. Then the fourth thing is, which is in relation to safeguarding MSBs, SPIs versus APIs. I know as a matter of fact that an API, you need a safeguarding account. SPIs, because you have limited volumes and transaction size, I'm not so inclined about the rules. But the good thing is that there are a few good compliance people in the room. Even Adiola herself is a compliance person. Roxy is a compliance person. So maybe one of the breaks, somebody can also answer the SPI part so that we're on the same page. Now, would you get a bank account? I think you should try. I think you should talk to, I know that a few of the high street banks every now and then will open an account. Because the other danger that we have experienced over the last 5 years, when your business starts to grow, especially on digital, and you're now sending money through from your small individual account or the small operational account, at some point the bank compliance calls and says, okay, we've seen a lot of these transactions coming through. We don't understand them. Where are they coming from? Then the problem starts. Then the lack of knowledge starts. You understand? Like yesterday, we made a payment to a client. We made the payment twice because the first one, we thought it didn't go through. The client had to call the bank's compliance before they could release the first payment back to us. Because so far as the bank was concerned, it was individual to corporate. It was just as little as £4,500. But you see how sensitive they become. So I really think that the first thing is, if you have an account now with the bank, go and sit in front of your accountant and say, I've heard so much about safeguarding account, I want to open it. All the big high street banks have safeguarding licenses, if I'm correct. ABSA, Barclays does, Lloyds Bank does, NatWest. All of them have safeguarding licenses. They're actually licensed to do safeguarding. So your next thing is, I want to open a safeguarding account, and hear them out. In between that period, look for a terminating party. We're happy to help you. In between the terminating party, we also have the companies that do the cash in transit. So they will pick your transactions, they will put it into a banking system, but of course you must have all the record of every single transfer you've done. That's what we mean by compliance follows the money. Every single transaction, you must have the IDs of the origination point, the IDs of the end point. All of that put together, they will put it into the cash in transit service, and they'll get to players like us who can then onward finish the process for you. So there are little steps you can take to start the journey of safeguarding. But like I've always said, make sure you have, even if you don't have a safeguarding account, make sure that you safeguard in practice. And safeguard in practice means that when clients give you the money and you put it in your operational account, that operational account should only have client transactions in it. But I didn't tell you to do that. I'm just sort of counseling you of ways to protect yourself.
Thank you, but to be clear, there is no API companies. The majority of the companies are SPIs, because the moment they lost their bank account back in 2018, they have been forced to close their API license, because API license with no safeguarding account is invalid straight away. So we are not APIs, we are SPIs. SPI, a company with no account, dealing with the cash. Basically, we are dealing with cash, but we are following the rules and we are licensing. We are giving the breakdown of transactions. We are following the 100% to 200% of the compliance. But again, we are finding difficulty to convince the banks to open bank for us, although we are following the rules.
No, you're right. You're very right. And that's what this whole platform has been talking about all afternoon. And I suppose maybe offline I can also tell you some of the things we ourselves were working on as a company to be able to work with you. There were times when certain banks won't open an account for us, yet they will bring us traffic from specific clients to our account. But they won't open an account for us. Maybe it was a concentration risk. That's something I've learned today. You understand? So it's not because we're delinquent, but because they had a concentration of too many of a certain type of client. But I think that maybe after the session, we can look at other things we can do to guide you as well. But I think that I love what we've discussed today. I like what Jenny said about diversity. I actually One of my takeouts from this session is to create a whole diversity campaign, compliance diversity campaign, where the diversity is not on leadership, but it's on services, it's on clients, and it's on sectors. Because I think that's the thing that's going to help us. And if anybody knows me, when I take something up, I don't drop it. So I'm personally leaving this room with diversity in compliance, in product offering, so that people like all of us will have a place.
Fantastic. I think. Oh, did you want to?
Just to add to that, I think we've probably covered safeguarding in a lot of there, but just a couple of I guess early thoughts around kind of the cash piece. So I think there's been a growing trend for some banks to kind of loosen their risk appetite, for want of better words. In that, and when I say that, I mean being kind of mindful of jurisdiction. So I mean, if we take the UK for instance, most payments are done by card. Things are completely digital for the most part. Yes, you have a sizable kind of brick and mortar business, which is why Western Union really are flourishing. But then if you look at jurisdictions such as the UAE or maybe parts of Africa, cash is king. And to that extent, banks are increasingly looking to get comfortable with the principal mode of transfer. So if cash is king, what is the institution doing to get comfortable? So do you have an agent oversight program? Do you monitor your storefronts? Do you monitor your branches? And to what extent do you, dispel or exit business based on, key risk indicators or areas of concern that you may have? And I think being able to kind of demonstrate that kind of puts, again, your best foot forward. And banks are increasingly likely to engage with you on that front.
So what I'd like to know is whether currently has the appetite for what is that statement?
So I wouldn't want to speak for out of
the question is whether Crown Agents has the appetite or is going to have the appetite after this meeting for bank opening of accounts for companies like that.
What I'd say is that we're firm believers of treating customers fairly, in that every single application that comes across my desk, I'll take very seriously.
I just want to add to that. I think that this conversation today has been to inspire, right, and to share information and to dialogue around what the possibilities and the opportunities are. So although he may not be able to answer right now, I hope that he's going to take this information back to his leadership team, and they can have a very interesting discussion around the topics and some of the challenges that have been that have come up today, and the interest that there is for change to take place. Roxy, would you agree?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have to. Okay, we have just 1 minute, then we have to go to Emmanuel.
So what I was saying about the light banks, the concept of a light bank is that the regulator says, okay, I recognize that you are serving a specific need, so I'm going to work with you to do that. I believe that in the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to see a lot of defragmented banks, payment and correspondent fintechs, who all they just do is just provide you correspondent service as a bank, and therefore allow you to bring your cash, which is compliance is following that money. Like you said, you have all the material detail, and they'll be able to process it to their destinations on your behalf. I think you should look out for this space. I'm pretty excited that it's going to happen anytime soon, and I feel like these light banks will become challenger banks to the high street banks, and will open up that ecosystem, because clearly FCA recognizes that it's a huge gap. There are more SPIs than there are APIs. In fact, you often hurt yourself to be an API even, because it's so the regulations are so stringent. Do you see what I mean? So I'm sure there's a lot of discussions going on around.
Thank you, Andrew. So I think we started off by saying that the purpose of this panel was to discuss what some of the challenges are, and then to try and identify some solutions. I'm sure that this conversation could go on, but we don't really have the time, so we're going to have to wrap it up. Andrew said he's learned something. I've definitely learned a lot. I'm hoping that the different stakeholders in the room have also been able to take something away from this. But most importantly, like I said, it's always interesting to try and take 1 or 2 pointers, low-hanging fruits. What can we do differently, going forward after hearing such an insightful conversation? So we're going to wrap that up. But before we leave the stage, we're going to ask Emmanuel to just share a few words around settlement. I believe you had something to share with us, Emmanuel?
Thanks everyone. So I'm just going to be sharing with you how the settlement process actually looks like for our partners. So currently what we have is we have partners who are post-funding and then pre-funding clients. Pre-funding clients are clients that are actually able to go to markets based on their own resources or based on their own funds. And then the post-funding clients are clients that they can't go to market. We actually fund them before they can go to market. And this is how the process actually looks like. So before they come to market, they are able to, send money to their clients or subscribers in Ghana here by sending us multiple currencies. It could be dollar, it could be euro, it could be ZOF, it could be Tanzania shillings. It could be all the other currencies that we actually trade with. So when they send us the money, what we do is, I'm just going to give you the dollar aspect. When they give us a dollar, we agree on a rate with them. Once we agree on a rate with them, we actually take the dollar to a bank, we convert to CD, we use the CD to fund their positions, and then the position could be an OVA. An OVA is an online virtual account where we have a lot of electronic money, sitting there. That money actually sits there to be terminated to subscribers' wallets or wallets on behalf of these partners that we actually work with. So these remittances or inflows actually come in, we agree on the rate. If it is forex, like dollar or euro or pound, once we agree on the rate, we take it to the bank, we convert to CD. The partners don't actually have access to CD, we have the CD. So once we get it, we use it to fund their positions and they can pay onto subscribers' wallet. This actually can be done at any time. But it must be actually within the window from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. That is when market is actually opened. So this is with regards to in Ghana here. But in the other markets that we operate in, like Mozambique, like Ivory Coast, like Rwanda, so we take these forex from these partners, we convert to these local currencies like Rwanda, like Rwanda francs, Mozambican shillings, and all the other currencies, and then fund these partners' wallet. But once we fund their wallet, we go back to them, we confirm to them that their position is fully funded, and then they can pay to any subscriber that they want to pay. But when it's fully exhausted, we go back to them and tell them that, okay, their position is fully exhausted, especially those that are pre-funding clients, and then they can also replenish their position for payment to actually go on. So it's such a simple process. We actually work 24 hours. We are able to give support to all the clients, even at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. It's actually a we don't stop. It's a 24-hour service that we provide here. It's very detailed. Our partners actually love our services, and they don't have any challenge. And so that's it.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you very much. Okay, so that brings our discussion to a close. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yes, please. Can I have a picture taken panel? Thank you very much, Letitia. It sure was. It sure was. Thank you good one. Thank you very much. I think we've had a better understanding of de-risking and the banking challenges. Good advice from one challenger fintech to one prospective challenger SPI. Thank you. So moving on, I was hoping I'll claw back a few minutes so we could still finish within time. I would try and be snappy. And so, Yes. Let me just. Next session, I just need. Okay. This thing. Yes, so we're on this. Yeah.
No, we all here. We don't have. We follow whatever is happening. I don't think there's going to be a panel. I don't think there's going to be another panel. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much. I'm really enjoying these videos. I don't know if you all agree with me, but quite insightful. So, just a short one before I get ready for the.
Oh yeah, I'm a short talk. I just think to about money for you now that you be a bit me. My wife. Where is it?
It's your Benetton. You think slave queens are cheap? Just use ZP to send me 1,000 Ghana cedis. After all, the charge is only 5 cedis.
Privacy.
Money.
I'm like, oh, okay. ZP mobile.
I can even use the same ZP mobile money to pay my bills. Now let's
Dial *270# to pay all your bills with ZPay mobile money. ZPay direct.
Simply say, ladies and gentlemen, I am ready for my next panel. I would like to invite Adiola, Godwin, Junaid. Please join me on stage. Are we miking them or giving them? Thank you very much. You would have to use mic as well. Yes. So, I think the last panel actually explained to us the risking and then looking at some of the challenges that SPIs could face. For this session, I think it's important that we understand the regulatory environment and how to remain compliant. Do you know, it's interesting. It's always nice when you go to the regulator and you get approval. It's always nice when you receive your license. Those are all niceties to have, and we're always so excited. But I think the difficult part is actually remaining compliant. And I think that's where all the supervisory work, all the regulatory work actually comes in. So this panel is actually going to look at how institutions or SPIs can actually remain compliant. Because we've seen over the last couple of months, we've seen what's happened to some fintechs in Nigeria. We've seen some fintechs fall foul to the law, even in Ghana, where there was one particular fintech that's actually facing courts, some issues. And I know it's not going to really be a good one. And that's all because companies fail to remain compliant during the whole process. So let me ask my panel to briefly introduce themselves. I will start with Junaid here, and then move on to Godwin, and then Adiola, and then I would ask them a series of questions. Please go ahead. Tell me a bit about yourself and your company. Thank you.
Thank you, Clara. My name is Junaid, co-founder of LexTago. LexTago, we do transaction monitoring. We are fully API-driven and very much geared to enabling technology, where technology is taking fintech and banking in general.
Thank you, Junaid. Please.
Hi, my name is Godwin Sonny Thomas. I'm founder of Hulogis Limited. We do AML, external compliance auditing of ZPay, and I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, Godwin. Over to you.
By the way, I have a bit of a cold, and I think my allergies are kicking in. So if I'm not audible, somebody should just tell me, and I'll try and shout as loud as possible. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adiola Retui. I am a financial crime prevention specialist. I work with ZP.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. So I've always maintained that remaining compliant is actually the hard work, you know. So from your, Junaid, if you can tell us, what are some of the regulatory expectations for, let's just sort of keep it in context, maybe for SPIs like we have in the room today. What do you think are the expectations from the regulator?
So it also depends on how big you are, right? So if you're not flying that high on the FCA's radar, they just generally ignore you. And what we're seeing then is the basic expectation is the onboarding side, especially on the KYC. I think getting that right, firstly, is always a good start for any organization. I think once you do that and you start growing, you then realize that the onboarding is a static point and that you need to do more. Then you need to start looking at the entire flow of the transaction, and you're then looking a bit further in terms of how you manage investigations, and you start doing deep dives and you go far more deeper into the AML. But that is where I think, depending on the size of the organization, you really have to be, you may get away with things with the regulator in the beginning. And then it also depends on who your technology providers are as well. So as we move forward, as we're starting to utilize more and more different technology providers, especially in the banking as a service, for instance, at some point, someone has to have the conversation as to who is responsible for the compliance. Is it the banking as a service? Is it the actual fintech or whatever you're doing in terms of, especially in the embedded finance world, who is actually in charge? And I think that conversation doesn't happen until that embedded finance or whoever it is becomes so big that the banking as a service price that, you know what, actually I don't want to do this anymore because you're too big now.
Interesting. So Junaid has just painted, sounds like a web of different integrations, web of different applications. So Godwin, does it really matter at where do we have to start sort of shining the light? At the onboarding stage or throughout the whole, spectrum of being compliant? Do you start from, which one is critical? Because like he said, sometimes if you're a small player, perhaps the regulator just goes to sleep, but it's risky as well. So where do you think it starts from, right from the beginning?
Yeah, I think it cuts across. It's basically everything. I mean, the compliance is important for two reasons. Regulatory aspect and fraud prevention. So basically, like you said, from know your customer, due diligence, documentation, risk mitigation, risk monitoring, like transaction monitoring where he comes in. It cuts across board, but it's very, very important to be compliant.
My challenge sometimes is when I listen to Omar and I listen to Haben. These are small institutions. So sometimes when it comes to the expectations, Adiola, this is where, I mean, you just don't want to discourage them, or you just don't want to make it tougher for them to operate. But how do you have a good balance between ensuring that they are remaining compliant? Because obviously it means that they must have some of these platforms in place, which I can see cost. I mean, even if it's just an application as a service, you still have to pay for it. In the past, we all know what the data centers were in terms of house and all of this. So how do we actually make sure that small payment institutions like themselves don't get sort of frustrated throughout the process?
I think really the regulatory expectation is that whatever processes you have in place to comply is fit for purpose. That means that the extent that you go to has to do with the extent of your business and the extent of your risk. And I also want to say that SBIs kind of have an advantage over the APIs in the sense that you are closer to the people. You have the opportunity of most of the time interacting directly with your users. And so you have that added advantage at onboarding to identify and verify who your user is. And also I want to encourage that we take steps to also know that, okay, this my user is a salary earner. So if he's operating this system and he's sending a certain amount of money 10 times in a week, that doesn't sound like a salary earner. So that should put you on guard. It's simple, it's straightforward. It's just every day, is this normal? Would I do this if this was my profile? And those are the kind of things that I think small payment institutions can put in place. Since, I mean, the cost of using technology and all of that is expensive, but also, I mean, as we go on, you can also use institutions that will terminate for you and have those compliance structures in place. But that, of course, will happen as your business progresses.
All right. Good, thank you very much. So now at least we've sort of set the tone in terms of what is required, looking at your different sizes. Perhaps now let's move into sharing some best practices. I think I would start with Godwin this time around. Perhaps if you can just share one or two from your perspective. I would ask the same question goes to Junaid and then similar goes to Adiola. What are the best from you? Give me two, please. Top best practices for institutions?
Like Adiola said, firms like ZPay are closer to the people. And so for me, I think one of the first ones would be know your customer. You definitely have to know the people you're dealing with. Customers in this sense to me means the end user, customer sending, but also the beneficiaries. So you need to know the type of people you're dealing with. You know, you should give a great example of, you know, you might be a salesman or something earning $1,000 and he's sending $40,000 in a month. You have to look at that. So that would be one. Second one I think is, it kind of ties in with that, has to do with documentation. You need to really make sure you have all the right documentation and everything. I mean, we can't downplay the significance of compliance, because I know a lot of people don't know much about this industry, but there have been some heavy fines. HMRC fined the company, I think, £23.7 million for infractions. And the total, in 2021, the total fines figure for fines worldwide, I think, was 5.3 billion.
Wow.
How Ghana could use that money.
Yes, gosh. Thank you.
But, yeah, so these are some of the things. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, God. Yes, Junaid, do you want to add any best practices?
Yeah, I think Adiola hit on the head with the profiling. What is normal? Understanding what is normal and then seeing what falls out. I think if you're new, that is one very, very, I wouldn't say easy way, but that also helps you to understand your own operations and how you're actually going through the operations. That's probably a very good point. And also recognize that if you are small, if you are relatively new in the market, you are going to be a target for fraud and money laundering because they're going to try and expose new businesses. Being aware of that's going to happen will also keep you alert.
Thank you. Adela, do you want to add anything, compliment?
Yes, what I wanted to say was that awareness is also very important. You must be aware of your risks. You must be aware of the risks in your market. And that informs the controls that you put into.
Okay, so I've got a few SPIs here. Do you have anything around compliance? Okay. Give me 1 second and I'll try and get to you. But I would love to hear from SPIs. Do you have any nagging concerns? You've got the experts here.
I think what I would like to, my advice to SPIs is to always sleep with one eye open. That's all. You always have to do that. People are out there to really take you to the cleanest. And in doing all this, don't be greedy. Don't be greedy. That's all. Sleep with one eye open.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, yes, Janice. So, sleep with one eye open is, I want this to be very interactive, so work with me. Yes, Janice.
Okay, this is just a contribution. So you're talking about compliance risk and being aware. And from my perspective, it starts from scanning, regulatory scanning. You must be aware of what's happening in the markets. If you are not aware, you will not implement. And if you don't implement, you expose yourself to risk because you are not compliant with the new rules. For example, Citibank was fined last week. When you read the full final notice from the FCA, the breach was because they didn't, their implementation was flawed. And so they quote the relevant period between a certain, I think 2015 to 2018 as a relevant period where the implementation was flawed. So they were exposed to the risk. So personally, I mean, for reg change and reg implementation, I think it starts from scanning. Your scanning must be very good. I mean, you may use expensive PLC, LexisNexis, but I use the daily Norton Rose, the law firms in addition, so that it's very broad, just in case the big ones have missed it. You can pick it up from the law firms who are not doing it as a business. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is free information in terms of how you would get it done. So basically, what would you say to SPIs that we have here today? What does ZPay need to do to make sure their businesses are compliant?
Oof. I think Mr. Chairman's got it right. You sleep with one eye open, and then you understand. Okay, there is probably some sort of fraud potentially happening. I think the biggest challenge is, especially like for ZPay, you want to grow, and you want to grow fast. You want to be acquiring. You want to go to that volumes of 200 billion, and that scaling slowly is. But it's that scaling is the challenge, and how do you manage that scaling? And for us, that's where a lot of our services come, because you're going beyond just basic AML monitoring. You've got layers and layers of money laundering that's happening. Then you're getting into people's and PEPs and sanctions and fake identities, and then you've got other fraud. You've got so much happening at some point. How do you manage that? I think people is very, very important, but also how do you leverage technology, and that has to be a huge part of it.
I think,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I've been doing external auditing, compliance auditing for ZPay for, I think this is my 4th year. And the good thing is, when I started, there was, I identified certain risks and weaknesses, and then what's the word? I recommend, and each report that I was doing, subsequently I realized the recommendations were put in place, the better things. But I've always said to them, and I always write at the end of my reports, the company is growing at such a fast rate, and it's doing very well. But the bigger it gets, the more it needs to open it, like Chairman said.
Yeah.
I think actually with two eyes open, if it's possible.
Yeah, I know, right?
You know, so yeah, that's the thing. But I mean, they're going in the right direction, so that's a good thing.
Okay. Adila, do you want to compliment what Godwin said? It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to add that for me, proactivity is the name of the game. You have to be proactive. You have to, the way we're expanding, just as you have disruption increasing, just as disruptive technology is getting better, the criminals are getting better. And they are all the way looking for ways to cash in. We have a very recent example in MTN Nigeria. Before they, just almost immediately after they started, they were hit, Aka, Mailware, whatever it was, 22.7 billion. All the banks are in court. So that's how bad it is. So we have to be proactive. At ZPay, what we do is that we provide services that are technology driven to monitor your transactions, to at least put controls in place so that when they're flowing through us, they're tracked. We can identify suspicious activity. So we use those to be able to help you defend at least your systems. So if you're on our platform, you are assured that we're doing transaction monitoring, we're doing sanction screening, and that way we're at the end of the day protecting you and keeping your business going. And also we have an added value of doing all of that in a very short period of time. So it doesn't delay your transactions. Our controls do not delay your transactions.
In fact, I was just going to, I remember when we used to be in cards payments, you always used to look at how do you have a good balance between all of these controls and still make sure the customer experience is good. You still want to make sure you delight your customer. I mean, for those of us that used to be in sales, that's the word you would go around preaching all day. But you know, at the back, when you go to the back office, you have compliance, you've got all of these, you know, other guys who have their. So I hear you, and I want to sort of make a point here. Can I ask SPIs to go to bed, not closing both eyes, because ZPay has it covered?
They need to do their part. Okay, so their part is this. At onboarding, you have identified your customer. In the process of doing monitoring, we'll come back to you. We'll ask you certain questions. We need you to be able to give us detailed responses. We need you to be able to tell us, this is the purpose of this transaction. This is who my customer is. I have identified them. And that's your own part. Once you've played your part, it makes it easy for us to do the other end.
Yes, please, Patricia, go ahead.
Please.
Yes, please. Thank you, Godwin.
Sorry, that was an involuntary reaction.
That's okay.
Because I'm a small business owner and my bankers really frustrates me.
Okay.
Right, with the amount of forms that you have to fill for a very simple transaction. I need evidence that you're doing business with these people, etc. So is there also a desire on the other end to try and simplify these processes? Because, I mean, it can be quite cumbersome, to be honest. I mean, sometimes I even send an email. I have email indemnity, right, with my bank. I send an email saying, transfer this money to X, Y, and Z. And then they call me, oh, you sent us an email. I just want to confirm the email. I'm like, I've just left a meeting to have this conversation, and the email should, you know, be enough. Oh, but somebody could have hacked your account. I mean, sometimes it's just...
Unfortunately, Letitia, I wish I could tell you that we'll do away with the processes. But
oh, no, I'm not talking about doing away with processes.
No, as in reassure that we could make it better. But we're in the age where technology is just driving everybody. So you are using your email, you're on your own account, and someone else is using it somewhere. So that account. But what we do is, so they are, and of course, ultimately, the responsibility of the regulator is to protect the consumer, and that responsibility is on the financial institution, unfortunately. So they take those double steps to protect you and to also protect the market.
Yes. But the interesting thing is, I mean, but that's true what Letitia said. But what I wanted to say is, in Africa, we know we don't, I mean, let me rephrase. The FCA in the UK, let me use in Ghana. Have you had experiences in terms of dealing with both regulators? Can we have some comparative? Yes. Are they more stringent here compared to any of the African countries? I mean, ZPay is in quite a number of African countries, correct? So can we sort of look at the expectations? Are we supposed to be very, very, very aware of what's going on here? I mean, what's the situation like, having experience in different jurisdictions?
So I've had the opportunity of working both in the African jurisdiction and here. And one thing I always give to the regulators here is that when the regulations are going to be made, the community is carried along, the financial community is carried along, we're engaged. And usually when the policy statements or the regulations come out, there's a period of implementation. And that's also an advantage for operating in this environment. But in the African jurisdiction, most often than not, it's the instruction before the guidance. And so, and it usually would come into effect immediately. And so as an organization, you would have to start to comply from day one.
Okay. That's an interesting one. God, you want to add something?
Well, I mean, I was just going to say, for me, I think it's even more difficult in Ghana because the Bank of Ghana is not playing. I mean, they're looking for opportunities to find and, you know, make money. And rightly so. I mean, the regulators, that's what they're supposed to do. So it's probably more difficult and there's more red tape involved, you know, when it comes to Ghana.
Okay.
So yeah, like she said, you know, with hair,
yes,
they'll get you involved in the beginning before everything
Yes,
comes out.
yes.
But there, it's just like Big Brother comes and says, "Do this," and
then you get into bribery and everything else with government officials, and then we enter a whole new world.
I'm not talking about that place. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm very much still Ghanaian. Even though
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it's interesting you say this because, I mean, yes, the regulator in Ghana, I mean, I don't know if you saw there was a list, and, you know, they are, because they would actually come out there and tell you. And I think sometimes, maybe because of the way it is, can you imagine if they have to do longer stakeholder engagement? You know, by the time you even move to point A, the first steps are on point. So maybe sometimes I can understand why they come across as being bullish, but I think for the sort of environment we tend to operate in, you need a big brother that is like, you know, on your case and making sure that you do the right thing. So
Yeah, I mean, let's give them some credit. The thing about Bank of Ghana is what they tend to do is they put notices on their website.
Oh,
So it's up to you as, you know, the institution to go there all the time and we can't just say, you know, they just do whatever. They don't do whatever. They actually, I'm using my commercial law here when I did commercial law. They actually put it on their website. So we have to give them that credit. Yeah, they do their stuff.
I think so. And I remember the earlier panel we spoke about information, knowledge, you know, so it's just making sure that SPS, you know, you keep abreast with what is out there and read it. Because this is compliance. I mean, so I think we're almost running out of time. Do you have a question? Okay. So I have one question here, please. Okay. Okay.
Second question is, has there been any way in which regulators have wrongly fined ZPay for anything that was able to reconcile?
Okay.
I think
No, not to the best of my knowledge.
Not that I am aware of.
I think maybe the chairman just said they haven't. But I think they did too would have could clarify that. But yeah.
You heard that from the board chairman, extremely compliant. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Omar, you had a question? You can hear. 1 second. Sorry. Maybe let me leave this one down. Thank you.
For the transaction monitoring guys, you know, the OFAC and the financial sanction list, they keep putting people in the list, and then they never remove the people from the list. Americans are putting all the Muhammadis and all the Alis and all Osamas in the list. And there's a lot of people with the same names. So how do you tackle, or how you deal with these situations?
So what we do is, yeah, you're right. That's the entity resolution part. What you say, because this is about, you know, if you've got Muhammad, there's like 50 different ways of writing just Muhammad in one language, let alone adding all the different languages in. And then, so the way we deal with it is then you can start putting allow lists and block lists. So on the allow list, once you've gone and verified this isn't the person on the sanctions list, you can start putting them on an allow list so that they can continue to transact as if it's normal, and if they go outside of parameters. Yeah. Yeah.
It will be.
So you will always go through that first false positive. You're going to have to check that one out because it's going to get flagged first of all. You also, part of compliance, especially in transaction monitoring, is building up data. And building up that data over a period of time, because you're learning, you're starting to understand and see the patterns. When you start seeing the names, you can start saying, okay, I know this person, I have a date of birth.
Okay. With the regulators, it's okay.
Yeah, so as long as you can prove that later on. Yeah. So
this person, died years ago, and every day the system is flagging. So you put that person into a list, which is called
as long as you've got that information to support it. That's why I think working with, say, between the SBS and say ZPay, and having that information, being able to then say, okay, we've looked at this, then you have enough information to start being able to make those decisions. Say, allow this, are fine.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the summer thing because you don't know who's listening. It might flag all of us and we can't fly back home. But I mean, away from SPIs, when I was working for a law firm called Prime Attorneys, we had one of our clients being the Ghana, Libya. So they own Golden Tulip and all that, yeah. And they were flagged. I don't know what had something to do with Gaddafi or something. They were flagged for a very long time. They couldn't move money. It was very difficult. But in the end, they kind of got compliant and then approved, to the authorities that things were in order now. And then they got taken off the list. So the point I'm trying to make is you can't be flagged and put on the list. But I think if you correct everything that you're supposed to and prove to the authorities, I think you can be taken off the list. Maybe the examples you're giving, the people put on the list and they just thought, well, we're doomed. Let's just, there's nothing we can do. Of course, if you don't do nothing, then you're still, exactly, yeah.
Great. So just by way of wrapping up, I can see Letitia is giving me the side eye, so we can wrap up now as my timekeeper. Just by way of wrapping up, I think for me, ZPay is moving into all these new countries. I mean, like you rightly said, it's at a very fast pace. For your closing remarks, what advice would you give a company like from a compliance perspective? I would start with Adiola, please.
Yeah, so for me, the advice is to maintain a question was asked earlier, have you incurred any regulatory sanctions or fines? And the only way you don't incur that is that you have a strict compliance regime. And the only way you can, as we expand, the idea is to maintain that standard, to use the gold standard.
did.
Yeah, then you take it back to
So, what's the ZP opportunity? My SPIs are here, and I think there's no other person to do justice to this than our own GM. So Dede, I hand over to you. Please tell us.
Good evening, everyone. It's afternoon, still afternoon. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. So, I have a short presentation. This is just to give us a sense of ZPay, what we have to offer our prospective SPI partners, whom I believe are all gathered here. What I want to show overarching would be the products, the value prop, the opportunities that we have essentially. So I'll just. Sorry, I just need to be mic'd. Alright, just been told I'm ready to go now. Okay, so I'm going to start by telling us ZPay, who are we, and why we believe that we're a strong company that you should be working with. Essentially, I'm trying to sell myself to all of you. So what we're saying at ZPay is that we're the largest cross-border payment institution. I mentioned this earlier on my platform, and I was saying that the fact that we've successfully built a sort of like a switch. I like to believe that it's a switch, but it's a platform that you can connect to and you have access, like I put it, to the world. So you have access to digital rails, means that now you can have access to all the different services that we have, and then be able to also access the different markets. So we're giving you distribution. By distribution, what do we mean? We are present in 20 plus African countries. We've been talking about Africa so far. We're present in over 20 African countries, and we have in excess of 1.5 billion total processed volumes across the continent. If you look at this map, it's just, you see green and you see red. Green means we have either a license plus a presence, office presence. Office presence, I mean, like in the UK, we actually have an actual office. When you see red, it means that we have termination capabilities. Now, in terms of governance, because by virtue of being, a registered company, you definitely need to have the right governance framework. We've spoken about compliance, and you can't speak about compliance without actually understanding the structure of the business. By way of governance framework, this is what we believe makes us that confident company and that strong company that you can deal with, and we will carry you through the long term. So Andrew Techia, yours truly, we've introduced our board chair, Mr. Pakwisi Yankee. We have a lawyer on the board, Zoe Phillips Techia, who happens to be a board member as well. She's a lawyer. You see her, the companies that she's worked for, DLA Piper and Norton Rose. And Ashley Thompson, who was a private equity investment, as a trading company. And then Bafo Tubuating also, we have a private equity company on our board as well. In terms of leadership, essentially, you've seen a lot of these people today. Emmanuel, Gloria, who heads our service delivery in one of the videos earlier on, myself, Andrew, HR, and our product manager for Mobile Money. Now we're coming into the opportunity itself. So what are the opportunities that we're offering you at ZPay? If you've partnered with ZPay, you have the opportunity of digital termination of remittances, which was spoken about earlier on today. So we'll offer you digital termination So we digitalize everything. We've spoken about the assets, we've spoken about the rails. We've spoken about microinsurance for most parts of the day as a product that we have, in addition to bill payments. Mobile money, a new concept, very heavy in Africa. One of the things, we're licensed as a mobile money company as well. We would offer you real-time settlement, and we would offer you funding support. Again, Andrew mentioned earlier, T's and C's apply. So for digital termination of remittances, essentially, in as much as we're talking about APIs and SPIs, we all believe we're MTOs, really. So ZPay sits in the middle between the MTO and the last mile, and this is the opportunity that we offer. So if you look at the channels, you have the kiosks where people can go out, or the last mile can actually access their cash pickups. You have the mobile networks that are offering the mobile money platforms. You can actually pick up at the bank as well. We offer you Visa termination, so you can actually pay out onto your Visa cards, MasterCards, and whatever cards that you can think of. And we also recently introduced the ATM termination. So what it means is that at the last mile, you can actually pick up your money at the ATM. Yeah, very exciting. Okay, so I guess essentially we were talking about microinsurance earlier on. We spoke about the fact that with as little as £2, you can access a microinsurance product for your beneficiaries back home. The features will apply, so you find the age limit. You don't need to have unlike the typical insurance products that we have traditionally, where you'd have to wait before you can access a claim or you can make a claim. These products that we're offering are 30-day cycle, and so I can access a policy, and within 30 days I can actually make a claim. So I don't have to wait for a year to be able to make a claim, which is really exciting. And that's the value prop that we've been talking about over the period. A microinsurance product is as realistic for the beneficiary as it comes, as cheap as it comes, and as realistic for them as well. Oh yeah, we spoke about the benefits also. We mentioned that at a cap of maybe $1,000 and more, you can access for as little as £2. Now, earlier on, we've spoken about bill payments. Our bill payment proposition, you can have airtime payments, you can pay your electricity, or you can make payments for electricity, power, water, pay school fees from, the diaspora. So you're an immigrant, you're working in the UK, taking care of family back home, you can actually get to pay their school fees as well. Interestingly, the young ones can also decide to have their Netflix and Amazon paid for. And not to say that they're the only ones who access that, but predominantly they're the ones who are interested. Okay, so one interesting thing that we'll come across when we're talking about payments and remittances and domestic payments and all of the payments, you are interested in, or you want to know what the settlement looks like, how safe that settlement process is, what it looks like, how meaningful it is for you. What we're saying at ZPay is the settlement is real-time settlement. We'll give you funding support, as I mentioned earlier on. I would also give you wholesale settlement. So for real-time settlement, what am I saying? I'm talking about the fact that if you send us money, for instance, real-time we fund you. We don't wait till 2 days. The moment your money hits our account and we have evidence, we funded you and you're able to transact immediately. Now that comes with a gap, or a possibility of a gap. As we all know, in this ecosystem, there's a likelihood to have a gap because you have cash coming in, and then you might have some shorter days of receiving or of collecting your gap, your cash in circulation. So you need to be able to bridge that gap, and that's what ZPay offers in some cases. Again, I'll say terms and conditions apply. We also offer you the best FX rates. So what will happen is, if on the market, for instance, you have a competitor whose rate on a particular day, realize that you're not as competitive as the next door neighbor or as the next door money transfer operator. You're able to come to ZPay and say, look, today my rates are not the best. Can you look at it for me? We're able to look at it and say, okay, let's see what we can do about it. We go back to the banks and we come back to you. If we're able to, we give you better rates. But on the whole, we try to match the bank rate, which means that we're not making anything on it and we're giving everything away to you, which essentially makes you very competitive on the market. Now, detailing our settlement processes, I'd like to say that is very reliable and certified by a lot of our partners, or by most of our partners. We would essentially or typically give you a bank load to start with, which shows you which bank accounts that you can pay into with the different currencies that you want to trade. Then we'll give you the FX rates. I already spoke about the FX rates. So we'll give you our FX rates, which will tell you what the rates are for the day for the different currencies. And then we'll go on at the end of the day, when you've transacted, we'll give you a statement of affairs that shows you what you transacted for the day, and then we'll bill you for the transactions that have been terminated. And I need to stress that if we have not terminated, we do not charge you. So it's what we've terminated that we're charging you for. Other partners would say, oh, once we've seen the transaction, we're charging you, but that's not it with ZPay. Okay, so going to our compliance process, I know Adiola has said a lot about compliance in the last panel. Going to our compliance process, we have a very robust compliance process. I know that there was a question about has ZPay ever been fined, and Adiola was talking about the fact that we have a very reliable and robust compliance platform or process. I'm just going to detail that overarching for you. So we have a program we call Compliance Follows the Money. That starts at onboarding, continues through transactions, and ends at settlement. So all the way through from beginning to end, you'll find compliance following the money. What do I mean by that? When I'm onboarding you, for instance, I will we'll go through all the sanction screening, statutory, plus ZPay has its own proprietary platforms as well that have different things in there. You have different platforms in different jurisdictions. We like to put them all together. In Ghana, we have a platform called GVive, and we have other platforms as well. Recently, we've got different things with our addition of the Ghana cards as a statutory means of validation. So we have all of those things on there, and then we do that validation for you. We will do that validation primary for the sender, and we'll do the validation also for the last mile, which is the rail that is receiving. Okay, so after we've onboarded you, we would keep validating all your transactions. So in as much as we've validated you as an entity, all the transactions that are coming through, even though we know that regulations require you to have done your own onboarding, which is primary, we will still follow up with a secondary validation once we see the transactions coming through. So in our back end, which is what this platform looks like, in our back end, we have the platforms that I've spoken about that will screen all the transactions through OFAC and all the proprietary platforms that we have as well. And then we would then accept the transaction. If it is not accepted, then we'll let you know. You probably would have to do further investigations. We'll do further EDD before we can pass it and let it go. But we also allow room for false positives and things like that. And we also allow you to let us know if it's name validation, for instance, what percentage of that you want us to accept. So a partner might say, accept 50% name validation. Okay, so name Adiola Oretuyi. If you see Adiola Dede Oretuyi, take it. If you see Adiola alone, take it. Someone would say, another partner might say, I want 100%. So if you don't see the full name, don't accept the transaction. So those are the things that we'll go into with you. You let us know what you want. We'll open it up for you that way. Okay, so this is just, again, for us, the individual screening. Like I was saying, when your transactions come through, we'll pick the transaction, screen the individual, screen the sender, and screen the beneficiary as well. So if you look at this, I don't know if it's clear enough. Okay. So if you look at this, you would see that a transaction has been flagged. There's a receiver, there's a reason, and then the status of the transaction. So what it means is that we've passed the validation if it's a success, or we've held the transaction if it is not. If we hold it, we'll come back to you for you to do EDD on that sender and let us know how you want us to treat the transaction going forward. If it's an error, then it's most likely that it's fake. But of course, we've got the error codes also embedded. So whatever the error is, you would get to know. Now, when you see a held FSS, for instance, and it's important that I say this, it means that the person has actually failed the sanction screening. So we're coming back to you, that's why it's pending. We're coming back to you to let us know how to treat it. But once it's failed and we notify you. So I hope that this kind of explains some of the questions around compliance that we were having in the room earlier on. So this is how ZPay handles the compliance as far as transactions are concerned. So if you're a regulator, for instance, and you came to us, this is what we're going to show to you. But I believe that any regulator that sees this will have the confidence to say, look, these people they know what they're doing, because in as much as on the send side, there's pre-KYC, but we still pick it and we do a secondary level, which gives everybody a lot of confidence and comfort. Well, this is just some statistics to show you what we're looking at now. About 6.1% high risk, 1.6% high risk transactions. This 1.6 is in terms of transaction count, 6.11 is in terms of volume. Okay, so next steps from here. Having heard how ZPay approaches its transactions, how ZPay is handling compliance, and how ZPay potentially will onboard you, what I want to say is, if you're interested, we'll start by onboarding you. And then once you've cleared onboarding, which means that you've satisfied our requirements as far as the regulator is concerned, we'll move ahead to do integrations, which requires that you would have your APIs, we'll share APIs with you, we'll go into integrations with the tech people, and then we can go live. Going live is what I had explained earlier on, where we'll give you a bank load, you wire the transfer, we'll have the money, but we'll give you a real-time dashboard. So the moment your money hits us, and we've confirmed that the money has hit us, you will see on a dashboard that we've actually funded you. Once we funded you, it means that you're allowed to transact. We never hold on to your money for more than 1 hour, which is standard at ZPay. If anything happens and it goes beyond that, then there might be a reason. It might be that we haven't cited it in our account, but that's our promise to our customers. So at this point, what I'll say is, if you're interested, for those of you who are invited by Kofi, please see Kofi. We'll initiate the onboarding process, and then we can take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Didi. Thank you. I think the opportunity is clear. We've seen what the products are. We've seen what the rails are. We've seen what the funding is. And I like the last bit, next steps. So it means ZPay is ready to onboard SPIs. So let's take advantage of this and do that right away. We're closing up very soon. So just before I get to my closing remarks, I told you I like the videos. I think I just have one more to share with you.
this is Mr. Fati, Senate Money Transfer. I just want to.
Is it which party? Okay. Okay.
Hello, this is Mr. Fati, Senate Money Transfer. I just want to say that ZPay is simply the best. They've been one of my best partners, simply the best partner to Ghana. Very helpful staff. The management is awesome. Andrew is a fantastic guy with them, and they've been really, really there for Next. I'm very happy that we're doing good runs with them. It's a company that I would recommend to any company, but it's a company that sticks to their words and show customer satisfaction and want to make sure that the partners are happy. So I'm very, very happy to say ZPay is simply the best, and I would recommend them to anybody. They really helped my business grow in Ghana. From a business that was doing nearly basically no transactions to Ghana to doing tens of thousands of transactions to Ghana now in the shortest possible period within 1 year. That was really, really awesome. So I want to thank ZPay. I want to thank Andrew. I want to thank the entire management and the team, especially the customer service. Support team, because at the end of the day, the backup is always very important, and they're always there to ensure that the partners are happy. It's an awesome company, and once again, I would recommend ZPay for any company to work with them. Thank you, ZPay. Thank you, Ned. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you to the entire team. I always want you to know that customers always appreciate your relationship with our company, and thank you, and we thank you, and we thank you.
Well, thank you, ZP. If I was in church, this is where I say hallelujah, because this is definitely the testimony that we all need to believe. This is the story of ZP. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the program. But just as a recap, I think today has been very insightful, delightful, impactful as well. You have heard the ZP story. Andrew started us off, telling us what the direction of the company was. We took you through 3 panel discussions where we shared with you how we have leveraged mobile money and technology to grow ZPay and beyond. We went on to look at how to overcome the risking and banking challenges, which everybody was happy to be part of. And finally, the last discussion looked at understanding what the current regulatory environment requires. For ZPay, as a country that is lifting off and has lifted off and touching all the right spots across the globe, I think it's very important that we are mindful about what compliance means to them. And thank you very much for being part of that. And lastly, we saw the presentation about the future. And for us, the future is bright as ZPay. And I'm always happy to support and work with ZPay. And for us at the UNCDF, we are passionate to work with ZPay, and it's something we're doing not only in the Ashanti and the Western region, but it's something we're going to do beyond Ghana as well. So ZPay, congratulations and thank you. But like everything else, when all is said and done, I think there's only one event back home when they tell you you never say goodbye when you are leaving. I think when you go visit at a funeral, it's something my mother reminds me every day, that you don't say bye when you go visiting. But for today, I can see the sun is out and it's a lovely day, and I've been waiting to go onto the terrace. So on this note, I would like to call a very important gentleman to close us, none other but the chairman of ZPay, Mr. Pakwesi Yankee. Please do us the honors. Thank you very much, sir.
Like everything else, there is an end. And we have come to the end of this very intriguing, very interesting conference, we call it. I can only stand here and say a big thank you to all of you, because you have really summed up all the things that has gone on today, all the things that we have done, what we have learned, what we have unlearned, the SPIs, the problems that they have. We try to tie your hands behind your back Crown agents, but you carefully navigated that. We'll still come back to you. I think Andrew never lets go. Andrew is going to fight for the SPIs. On behalf of ZPay, globally, Ghana, UK, Africa, today's conference that we've had has been successful one. Please say hello and thank you very much to Papa. Say I extend my greetings to him. We shall be calling on him to do bigger and better things with us. I think he can also be our #1 marketer in this market. I would also like to say a big thank you to the Crown agents. I saw the other partners that we have had various discussions where they came, but I think they've had to go. And they left you behind. VP, thank you very much. Very elucidating delivery that you did for us. We will always call on you again and again to come and do this for us. UN, like Oliver Twist, we ask for more. You always come to our aid. You're supporting us with this engagement that we have with you. And you follow us all over the world. And we are very glad and we love you because you always give us some, Andrew, they give us some small cash too for us to interact with various stakeholders. Let's go. We say thank you to you. And I would like to say that this has been one of the seamless conferences that we've had. Andrew, if I'm not mistaken, we can also say a big thank you to Dede and your team. Big thank you to Dede and the team for giving us a very, very good program. Seamless. Andrew, I didn't see him fretting on and making sure that everything is the perfectionist that he is, always trying to make sure that he was able to eat well last night. Then we knew that we were on the right track. I would like to end here and just say that all the participants, we do hope and we believe you've taken something from this whole interaction that we've had today, this conference that we've had. We will call you every now and then to listen to whatever you have, whatever problems that you have in Somalia, in Morocco, in Rwanda, in all these areas or markets that we have. And I believe you will come and we will learn from you and you will learn from us. And together as partners we'll grow. And like I said, just sleep with one eye open and you'll never go wrong. Please, when you have problems, ZPay is ever ready to listen to you and make sure that we solve the problems that you have. On that note, I would like to say a very big thank you to all of you, the participants. And we'll call on you again and again and again. We disrupt. And today I learned something else, that we are catalysts. And we learned something about chemical reaction and mixing of chemicals and the catalyst will continue to disrupt. I like the word so much because from disruption comes creativity and creation. Thank you very much, all of you, and have a good day.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Chairman. So on this note, I would like to say thank you until the next Disrupt 270 in London. Have a wonderful evening. But before we disperse, can I just ask that we take a group photograph with our board chairman? Kindly join me upstage. Okay, so board and guest first, and then the rest of us. All protocols observed. Thank you. Yes, yes. Let me try and get it. It's on the email. It's in the yeah. Did I join? Did it? I joined. Okay.
All the panel members, so that
Yes, panel members, yes.
all the panel members.
Yes, yes, we're coming. Are we? Yes, please. Godwin, please join me. Mr. Thomas. Dede, please join us. I think 2 members had to leave. Should we go to the top or?